can start telling me I'm number one using her fingers in a particular one. So
is there a listener who would disagree with me?
Yeah,
I'm thinking not.
There you go.
On your home of the Gamecocks.
Did you just flip me off?
No.
Yes, you did. You just flipped me the bird. Now, see, this is exactly what I'm talking about. If you don't shape up, okay, and get your head straight, there, you just flipped me off again.
107.5 The Game.
Oh, welcome in on a Tuesday morning, 6:03. Bill Gunner, Jen Jensen, as we get you up, get you going, get you fired up for what should be a nice Tuesday. I was kind of looking at the weather report last night. Shouldn't be all that bad today. Should be kind of nice. Shane Beamer will meet with the media later today around 1:30, and oh boy, yep, we're going to have to talk about some injuries that have occurred to South Carolina, and we'll see how it impacts. Like I was kind of pointing out yesterday, a couple things. One, we were talking about Mo Kaba and Jordan Strong and the way Shane Beamer was already addressing the injuries both on Saturday after the game and Sunday night in his teleconference. Normally Shane maybe a little more guarded, maybe a little more optimistic when he talks about those kind of things. And yet you had a sense when he was saying already it's not good, and we'll have to let you know later, you had a bad feeling. And yesterday it comes out, Jordan Strong and Mo Kaba out for the year with ACL injuries, and certainly not what South Carolina's defense needed after just 2 games in the 2022 season. And so that kind of leads me to my next point. You don't know how this team or any other team will end up really looking when you get to late October or November, because the season's a grind and it wears on you and there are injuries. This one is 2 really significant ones. One, Mo Kaba was really coming along, and you feel bad. I feel bad for both of them. But for Mo Kaba to sustain an ACL injury in high school and really battle back, and if you've listened or seen any of the interviews he's done, maybe over the last several months, but in the last year and a half, he's talked about how he was finally starting to feel like the football player he was in high school, starting to feel comfortable getting back on that knee and being able to go out and perform like the 4-star recruit that he was, and then to suffer another one this weekend. Just an absolute shame for him. And Jordan Strong had worked extremely hard to get himself ready for a big season and then move on to the NFL. And now he will have a lot of rehab in front of him. So really unfortunate news for those 2 young men yesterday. And you hate to see it. You hate to hear about it. But South Carolina's going to have the next man up mentality. They're going to have to move forward. And we'll hear about that plan more so today with Shane Beamer. You'll hear it right here on 107.5 The Game. Again, that'll be about 1:30 when Shane meets with the media and gives his thoughts, kind of looking back, recapping the Arkansas game, but also now starting to look ahead toward the Georgia Bulldogs, who will storm in here on Saturday afternoon, noon kickoff over at Williams-Brice Stadium. It's going to be interesting. I'm kind of interested as you come out now of the Arkansas game. Where are you at mentally with this team? The more yesterday went on, just talking to people that I run into outside of being here, as strange as it may seem, I do have a life outside of being here, and people want to continue that I see, continue to talk about some of the things I say on this radio program, and usually very nicely when they see me in person. But there were some positives that South Carolina has to build upon. I don't think that the positives necessarily just lend itself to going, oh, good, I feel better about that this week. But there were positives that South Carolina can build upon to get to that number that we kind of all agreed upon: 7 victories, 6 victories, 7 victories, getting bowl eligible. That would at least make it a successful season here in year 2 for the Shane Beamer era. And those things, again, South Carolina with 6.5 minutes to go, as poorly as they played, quite honestly, they were down 5 with the ball and a chance to go down and maybe take the lead. And obviously they go 3 and out. It doesn't work. There were some positives in the pass game that you can take away, and you hope to build upon that and add a running game element to it. So there are some things there. The defense bowed up a little bit more after the initial 3 possessions. They gave up 2 drives for touchdowns and then a 9-yard drive because of the onside kick. But the defense, I guess you could say, played better in the second half. Maybe it was Arkansas struggled. Maybe it was South Carolina's offense was a little bit better. But there are some things there that you could kind of take away. And we'll get into that a little bit. J.C. Shurburtt set to join us at 7 a.m. as he does each and every Tuesday to give his thoughts on what he saw. And again, also to look ahead to those Georgia Bulldogs who will roll in here ready to go on Saturday afternoon. In South Carolina, now with the injuries, is going to have to be ready to go as well. So if you want to weigh in on that this morning, anything that has occurred to you or you've heard over the last 24 hours and you need to get it off your chest or you want to talk about it, 803-404-6100. That's how you can be a part of the program. As always, you can go to our live stream. You go to youtube.com, search 1075 The Game, click join, subscribe, be a part of it. DC, RL, Jerry, Anthony, already weighing in this morning. RL saying we will be 3-2 by the time we go to Kentucky, still on track. So that there is that. South Carolina is probably right where we expected them. And unfortunately, after this weekend, if they are to lose that game and be 1-2, it's probably about where they were expected to be. They should win the next 2, and then that sets up the final 7 for what happens in 2022. So we'll take it 1 week at a time, but certainly right now, South Carolina, as RL points out on our live stream, kind of probably about where a lot of you were expecting them to be, probably right in that area of 1-1. Certainly it was a very physical game this weekend. The concern, though, back to the big news yesterday, is the injuries to Mo Kaba and Jordan Strawn. Gilbert Edmond will be the guy who steps up now at defensive end. Gilbert Edmond will be the guy that has got to make that defense, make the defensive line pressure continue to improve. South Carolina's got to do a better job of getting to the quarterback here in 2022. Through 8 quarters, the Gamecocks have not been very successful. Some of that a byproduct of the offenses that they faced. Some of it is just the fact that they've not done a great job of getting back to the quarterback. No sacks against Georgia State, just a couple this past weekend. So South Carolina obviously going to need to work on that, and Gilbert Edmond will be the guy who now team with Jordan Birch there at the defensive end spot to try and make that happen. We'll talk more about that as the morning goes on. Obviously, the linebacker situation with Mo Kaba, again, a shame. It does open the door now for freshman Stone Blanton, one of the more highly decorated recruits in the 2022 class that is now enrolled and has been able to go through fall camp or spring or preseason camp and off-season workouts. He now will move into probably a backup role with Sherrod Green. So if you think that the future of the program is centered around some of the recruiting, Stone Blanton now will be a guy you'll probably get to see a little bit more of as he'll be put into action maybe a little bit earlier than expected or than was anticipated. But South Carolina will now have to go out and prove that. Boy, no better way to get put into action than to do it against the Georgia Bulldogs. We'll talk about that a lot this morning. Want to get back into the big picture of college football from the weekend, as we spent obviously a lot of time yesterday talking about South Carolina, Arkansas. But what a wild weekend. And just your overall take, is there more parity outside of about the top 3? Is there more parity, or was Texas A&M, Notre Dame just wildly overrated? Is the Aggies with Jimbo Fisher? Is Jimbo Fisher just not that good of a coach who just lucked into a great quarterback in Jameis Winston years ago and won a national championship? Is Marcus Freeman going to be a dud up in South Bend? A lot there to get into this morning as the big picture look at college football. You can even take it all the way down to Gainesville after that big win over Utah. Kentucky goes in and plays Kentucky football, kind of thumps Florida around the football field, kind of hammers them physically, 26-16, the final down there. So anything from the weekend that you saw as it pertains to college football, a very interesting, very kind of wacky, wild weekend just with upsets. We'll get going again on Friday night on the college football side of things. Florida State and Louisville, Air Force and Wyoming. That'll lead us into a interesting Saturday in which you'll see Georgia and South Carolina. Oklahoma travels over to now coachless Nebraska, and a few other games as well for the coming weekend. Penn State and Auburn should be a pretty entertaining one. BYU and Oregon as well. So a lot to get into this morning. A lot of college football discussion 803-404-6100, how you can weigh in if you choose to do so. Reminder coming up today at 1:30, you'll hear Shane Beamer right here on 107.5 The Game as he will hold his weekly Tuesday press conference. So we'll get into all that, see some of you lining up on the phone lines. We'll get to you when we come back. You're listening to the early game on 107.5 The Game.
The Extra Point with Pearson, Preston,
and the guys from Gamecock Central.
I thought it was very reasonable for Carolina to come up with that game plan. We talked about it last week. They're down a couple defensive backs. Spencer's maybe your best weapon. You're an underdog. You're on the road. You're going to need to hit some of those big plays. I thought it was a perfectly fine game plan.
Yes,
I was waiting on the butt.
It's not a but. It's a both things can be true.
I'll give the butt. Yes. However, if South Carolina was down a couple of defensive backs, do you think Arkansas would say, "Oh, we're going to throw the ball this game"?
Yeah, I think that Arkansas is better. Like, they have the established identity from last season that they could then carry over because aside from Trey.
All righty. We're off and running this morning. Hope y'all are doing well. Up and running around. I was looking for my little on this computer, my breakdown of the game notes.
86 for the high today, 85 tomorrow and Thursday. Starting off at 72 right now. 107.5 The Game.
This is from our science with CBS Sports Minute, sponsored by AutoZone. Get this on AutoZone. Did I expect to see Seattle in sole possession of first place in the NFC West? No.
Get into a couple different things here.
While Brandon McManus missed a last-minute 64-yard field goal. No way. Nathaniel Hackett. What are you thinking? I'm from our science.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today? Thinking about gas mileage. An oil change with quality oil like Castrol Edge Full Synthetic can help your engine get more out of every tank. Right now, you can get 5 quarts with an STP Extended Life Oil Filter for only $37.99. You can get better fuel efficiency at any of our 6,200 stores or on AutoZone.com. Restrictions apply.
It's not easy being the one everyone counts on to keep the facility running, no matter the weather or supply chain hiccup. But we get you, Raymond in Buffalo, and Maria in Miami, Jules in Minneapolis, and Stan in Central Indiana, taking control of everything that's under your control. At Grainger, we're here for you, with experienced branch staff at over 250 locations, so you get the product you're looking for. Call clickgrainger.com or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Sponsored by Capital Palmetto Builders.
That little leak could be a big problem. Capital Palmetto Builders has 22 years of experience in roofing repairs.
Let me listen to something here.
Get your ride ready with magnets. Choose from swirls, earrings, necklace, bows, and tattoos, and complete your wardrobe with our free Beat Sticker weekly. Gamecock Traditions at GamecockTraditions.com. Your one-stop.
I was looking to see if we had audio from the field goal kick last night. Or not audio.
Attention, all military members or military families or contractors that spent time at the Marine Base Camp Lejeune. If you or a family member lived, worked, or served at Camp Lejeune at any time from 1953 to 1987, you may be entitled to significant.
Good to see you. Hope you're doing good. Yes, we don't. have, I guess they don't have the field goal kick audio from last night, in which the Broncos decided the long field goal would be the direction to go.
If you or a loved one was a Camp Lejeune at any time through 1987 and developed a serious health condition, you or your family.
Morning, John, Craig.
Call 800-927-2971. That's 800-927-2971. 800-927-2971.
This is true. Yep. Let's come back with number 6 if you got it. The physical Arkansas physical offense.
There's nothing like hearing the songs you love on local radio with no subscriptions and no monthly fees. But there's a new bill in Congress that could stop the music. If passed, this bill would tax your local radio station simply to play the music.
Yep, tackling tends to.
Local to 52886 and ask Congress to support local radio stations.
Morning. Hope everybody's doing good on a Tuesday. So I sit here and search for something. Oh, I know I was going to do something else too.
Broadcasting live from the Herndon Chevrolet Studios. This is 1075 The Game. Stop by, shop online today, and see why Herndon Chevrolet makes you smile. The early game.
With Bill and Jen Jensen.
On your home of the Gamecocks.
1075 The Game.
Impressed with them. I wouldn't say more impressed. I mean, we knew how talented and big and physical they were. But I mean, I'd like to think that we played, pretty physical as well. And we've got to continue to the depth defensively. I mean, I'm not making excuses because injury is a part of it. But when you don't play with R.J. Roderick, you don't play with David Spalding, you lose Cam Smith during the game, you lose Mo Kaba during the game, you lose Jordan Strawn during the game. I mean, if one of our defensively positions with the least amount of depth is defensive end. And therefore you're seeing Gilbert Edmond and Tyreek Johnson and Terrell Dawkins and Jordan Birch. And I'm not making excuses, but we got worn down in some ways as well. But I thought our kids battled their butts off. And, we've got to continue to play physical, which I thought we did. I mean, Zach Pickens, I thought was an animal out there today. You can tell everything about Zach Pickens, but just watching him on those extra points. I mean, he's coming through and almost had a chance to block a couple extra points just with his effort. So we've got to continue to develop depth because part of the plan was to, try and wear these guys down and play our players and keep our guys fresh and get it to the fourth quarter and find a way to win it. And we got it to the fourth quarter and we just didn't play well, turning the ball over and not being able to get, stops when we needed to as well.
That's Shane Beamer talking after the game on Saturday. Again, he will speak again today, 1:30. You can hear it right here on 107.5 The Game. And South Carolina being physical is something that you're going to – how physical did they play on Saturday, offensively and defensively? I guess that's in the eye of the beholder there. There was a lot of missed tackles. I've seen the tweet that came out. Over 20 missed tackles, over 150 yards of yardage after contact by Arkansas running backs or Arkansas ball carriers, losing players. And he's right. There is an element. Shane Beamer is 100% right on that. When you start losing guys, Kaba and Strawn and David Spalding and Cam Smith, that does play into it, but you've also got to have your backups ready to go. Sherrod Green's a pretty good backup at middle linebacker. He's been around this program for about 13 years now. He's familiar with how to play SEC football and be physical. I thought O'Donnell Fortune came in and at least tried to be very physical on the perimeter out there. But South Carolina, even against Georgia State, really struggled tackling. And it's just something I've brought up, and I may be completely off base. I may be completely wrong. But I do wonder about how physical the preseason was. South Carolina, for the most part, made it through preseason practice without significant injury. Corey Rucker, obviously, notwithstanding, and we still don't know his availability for this coming weekend or for the next few weeks. But I would feel like Shane probably and his staff did a good job of keeping the team healthy. The flip side of that is, have they come out of the gate as physical as you would like to see them? Obviously, a week ago against Georgia State, couldn't run the football, couldn't just knock Georgia State off of the ball at the line of scrimmage, got beat consistently. This past week, I thought they played better. I thought the pass protection was a little bit better. Some of that's because because Arkansas State elected to stay in a 3-man front, send Drew Sanders and Bumper Pool occasionally, go with more of kind of a 5-man rush at times, and South Carolina was able to pick it up. But I do think that physical nature of Arkansas beat up South Carolina. And the bad news is you've got a physical team coming in on Saturday, just as physical as the Razorbacks, if not a little bit more physical. 803-404-6100, how you can join us this morning. Again, you can go to the live stream and hop on there. Go to youtube.com, search 1075 The Game. John, Michael, Rob, and DC. John from Somerville all up and joining us there. Let's get out to the Love Chevy phone lines. Brett is up first this morning. Brett, how you doing? What's on your mind?
Pretty good, guys. How y'all doing this morning?
Doing good.
I got a question. I feel like Lloyd's a good back and everything, but it just feels like to me every time Juju McDowell gets a hold of the ball, it just becomes more electric, and he just seems like he is putting everything on the line every time he touches the ball. So I just want to get y'all's opinion on how do y'all feel. Do you think maybe he should be starting now in front of Lloyd, or or how do y'all guys feel about that? I'm just gonna hang up and listen. Appreciate it. Talk to you later.
I appreciate the phone call, Brett. I mean, look, I think two things. I don't question the heart of this football team and the want to. I don't think anybody's out there that's playing is out there kind of messing around or not giving it their all. I think Marshawn Lloyd through 2 games has been really good and very entertaining to watch, and he seems to be getting better. I think they've obviously got to give him more opportunities. Juju McDowell, you talk about him. Those 2 guys should be a 1-2 punch. I'm not anti Jaheim Bell getting rushes. I'm not anti getting the ball into Jaheim Bell's hands in that manner, but I still think Marshawn Lloyd and Juju McDowell should be the majority of the carries there. In South Carolina to date, I think I heard Pearson Fowler mentioned this yesterday, and you can look at the stats right now through 2 games. South Carolina 61 rushes for 119 yards. Now, stat a little skewed. Spencer Rattler second on the team technically in rushes, but because of sacks, Rattler with 16 attempts for negative 35 yards. So if you tack on the extra 35 yards there, that would actually take you to 154 yards on this is the problem though, on just 45 carries. South Carolina needs this week, I think, to go out and continue to evolve the pass game, get the passing game going. But whether it's Lloyd, whether it's McDowell, you want to throw Dante Miller in there, Rashad Amos, whomever, South Carolina's got to come out and try and kind of just establish some form of a running game. Right now, you look at it, Marshawn Lloyd on the season, 18 carries, 53 yards. Juju McDowell, 13 carries, 49 yards. There really hasn't been the effort, although Georgia State stopped them dead in their tracks pretty early and kind of made it evident that South Carolina wasn't going to be able to run. But South Carolina's got to come out, I think, this week, and even against that Georgia front group that's going to be very talented, very physical, the Gamecocks offensive line's got to be able to come out and be ready to run the football. Let's stay on the Love Chevy phone lines, back out to them. David is up next this morning. David, how you doing? What's on your mind?
I'm doing fine. I think that we'll be seeing progress the rest of the year. There's a difference between being in practice shape and game shape, and there's a little difference between practice speed and actual game speed. There's still, with all the new pieces we have, with the live bullets flying, so to speak, they're putting together what we can do and what we can't do. The games against Charlotte and South Carolina State couldn't come at a better time because the coaching and the transition of the team, I think we'll be able to see a big difference from game 6 on. Appreciate it, man. Have a good one.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, I mean, I think it's look, I do think South Carolina played better against Arkansas, obviously a massive step up in competition, than they did against Georgia State. There was improvement from week 1 to week 2. I thought South Carolina made some nice improvements and played a little bit better. They're going to need to obviously play better this coming weekend against Georgia. They're going to need to make improvement from week 2 to week 3, and this is going to be a banged up group. But you know what? That's part of playing college football, and that's part of being in the SEC. And that's why we talk about the SEC grind. And South Carolina still doesn't have the depth of some teams in there, but they're going to have to go out this weekend, and they're going to have to suck it up, and they're going to have to fight for all their worth to not get embarrassed at Williams-Brice Stadium and try and pull out a victory. So they've got to continue to improve. But I do agree there, and I think you make an interesting point when you look at big picture in 2022 as it pertains to South Carolina getting better on a week-in, week-out basis. Obviously, massive steps up in competition from Georgia State with Arkansas and now Georgia. Then you go way down the ladder there with Charlotte and then South Carolina State before ramping back up with Kentucky on October 9th. So the schedule does set up for South Carolina to get these games in, to find out where you're at, to try and be competitive again this week. Hopefully pull out the what would be the massive upset. But getting out there and doing that is one thing, but going out and competing, being competitive this weekend is extremely important. And again, improving upon what they've already done. 803-404-6100. I see a couple of y'all weighing in on the text line. We'll get to that when we return. You're listening to Bill Gunner, Jen Jensen. It's the early game on 107.5 The Game.
Our 15th anniversary celebration on 107.5 The Game
is sponsored by Lexington Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, getting you better sooner.
On your home of the Gamecocks, 107.5 The Game and the new 107.5 The Game app.
Keeping a clean home, especially during football season, as the kids are tracking in dirt and stuff from being at soccer practice or football or cheer or whatever. When you have people over, you want that house to look clean. And those kids, I can guarantee you, they're not helping you. They're bringing in all that dirt. That's why I personally rely upon Zero Res, the absolute best when it comes to keeping your home clean, with over 1,800 Google reviews and a 4.9 star rating. Zero Res Carpet and Air Duct Cleaning is the most highly reviewed cleaning company in the Midlands. Their patented ZR water technology leaves behind no residue. It's a cleaning system that I can guarantee will get your carpets, your rugs, and upholstery all insanely clean. And good news for you right now, you can take advantage of their fall sale. Get 3 rooms of carpet clean for only $119. All you got to do is mention me, Bill Gunner, at 107.5 The Game. So call them today and get that cleaning booked, 803-262-4020. You can schedule with ease online, ZeroResColumbia.com. That phone number again, 803-262-4020. Or again, you can go online, schedule with ease, ZeroResColumbia.com. It's the fall sale that you can take advantage of right now. 3 rooms of carpet clean for only $119. And that's when you mention me, Bill Gunner, at 107.5 The Game. So don't wait any longer. Keep the house nice and clean. You got another football weekend coming up. You want to have people over to watch the game, enjoy a Saturday, make the house look nice and clean. Use Zero Res. 803-262-4020 or schedule with ease online, ZeroResColumbia.com. Zero Res, spell it backwards or forwards. It's the right way to clean.
107.5 The Game traffic from the Shepherd's Glass Traffic Center.
Shepherd's Glass, a true reflection of quality. ShepherdsGlass.com.
No accidents to report at this time. No major slowdowns, and we're looking for great weather for the next few days. Less humid today, 86 for the high, 85 for the next few days, at least through Thursday. Right now, 72. 107.5 The Game.
Paid non-attorney spokesperson. Case Legal Media is responsible for the content of this ad. Attention, all military members or military families or contractors that spent time at Marine Base Camp Lejeune. If you or a family member lived, worked, or served at Camp Lejeune at any time from 1953 to 1987, you may be entitled to significant cash compensation. Call 800-320-9047 now to see if you qualify. That's right. Marines, their families, employees, contractors, and anyone who lived, worked, or served at Camp Lejeune may be entitled to significant cash compensation. Studies have found the water at Camp Lejeune was contaminated with toxic chemicals for decades, causing serious health conditions such as cancer, Parkinson's, leukemia, and non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Congress has approved, and President Biden has signed a new law allowing anyone that spent time at the base to seek the justice they deserve. Billions have been set aside for victims of toxic water claims. If you or a loved one was at Camp Lejeune at any time through 1987 and developed a serious health condition, you or your family may be entitled to significant cash compensation. Hurry, time is limited. Call 800-320-9047. That's 800-320-9047. 800-320-9047.
You wash your hands and brush your teeth, but what about your nose? How do you clean your nose? with Navage. Navage pulls saline in one nostril, around the back of the nose, and out the other nostril, flushing out allergens, mucus.
I do it, even worry is what you need back there. He's very solid. I like Eamon Mori. That's a good start. Yeah, I'd be interested to see how the other defensive backs are kind of progressing as well. Yeah, I mean, you gotta be able to stop some guys. Gotta be able to hit and stop. They're getting, we'll see again. Morning, LeVar. Hope you're doing well.
And Maria in Miami, Jules in Minneapolis, and Stan in Central Indiana. Taking control of everything that's under your control. At Granger, we're here for you. Experience.
Had the mic on, so all my comments to y'all went out over air. That's all right. Maybe that'll entice more people into the live stream since they see we're talking about football on the live stream. All part of the sales pitch.
No matter where you live. That's because NFL Sunday Ticket.tv gives you every live out-of-market game every Sunday afternoon. Stream right to your favorite device. Visit NFL Sunday Ticket.tv and order it today.
All righty.
Sponsored by Love Chevrolet.
803-404-6100. You can weigh in this morning if you want to be a part of the program. I want to remind you, 107.5 The Game will be sending you to home football games this season. Listen throughout the season to 107.5 The Game for Carolina Honda Powerhouse Gamecock ticket giveaways. Carolina Honda Powerhouse, your source for Honda Power Sports. Visit them on the web, carolinahonda.com. A lot of talk about South Carolina football. We'll continue on that. A couple of you asking, Jason weighing in, where is DeCarrion Joyner? Is he hurt? Just really hurt. He's got to practice better. He's behind some other guys. South Carolina's wide receivers are not the problem right now. Juice Wells, I think I want to continue to see him do it. You can't base it on just one game, but he's had two pretty good games so far for the Gamecocks. You look at it, he leads the team, 15 receptions, 244 yards. That's an average of 16.3 yards per catch and a touchdown. Jalen Brooks has been really good when they can get him the ball. I've been very impressed with Jalen Brooks. 6 catches, 117 yards so far on the season. And quite frankly, the way Jalen Brooks catches the ball or has caught the ball, he's made some very difficult catches. I think he and Wells form a really strong 1-2 tandem. The question is, can you get a third guy? Josh Fan this year, just 1 reception for 9 yards. He had a big drop against Georgia State. Van obviously dealing with a lot in the offseason. He's had a child that's been publicly kind of talked about. But Josh Van's a guy who I think, just like DeCarrion Joyner, mentally, you got to become a little bit more engaged and go out. And also you got to get the ball to him. The biggest maybe surprise, Jaheim Bell so far, just 4 catches for 18 yards. And the whole Jaheim Bell discussion, the more I watch him, the more I am just a firm believer. He's a wide receiver. He's not a great blocker there on the end. Line him up at wide receiver. I think you'd have Wells, Brooks, Bell, and Van, and that'd be a pretty good group of wide receivers. And then behind them, really, you could throw a Marion Brown, who we saw use his speed to get open a couple times on Saturday. He was behind the defense 3 different times, just couldn't really connect with him. I like where a Marion Brown or what he can kind of do. And then as Craig says on our live stream, Xavier Legette's gone on a milk carton. No catches yet for Xavier Legette this year. Toss in tight end Austin Stogner and Marshawn Lloyd, who's got 8 catches for 103 yards there so far in the passing game. Juju McDowell with 5 for 18. You've got some guys that can catch the ball and make things happen. And as Jason asks about DeCarrion Joyner, I think that's just a situation where he's behind those guys. He just quite frankly is got to either improve, get better, or do whatever. I think he's just simply behind all those other guys. He's kind of always struggled as a receiver, or really kind of picking everything up, being able to get separation. And right now, South Carolina looks like Justin Stepp has been able to mold together through the transfer portal a pretty solid wide receiver room. 803-404-6100. Back to kind of the college football landscape on the season. And yesterday, the AP Top 25 coming back out. That's kind of the one I go to. Don't really care to go with the coaches poll because they usually have their assistants or their sports information directors fill it out. But the AP Top 25, Georgia moves up over Alabama now. Georgia moves to number 1. So the Gamecocks get the number 1 ranked team this coming weekend. Alabama falls to 2. It was a matter of about 64 votes is about what it was. So 64 points, I guess, not votes. Georgia did get 53 first place votes. Alabama got 9. Ohio State now at 3rd. They got 1. Michigan still at 4. Clemson at 5. Oklahoma moving up 1 spot to number 6. Southern Cal. I'm continue to be fascinated by what we're going to see from Southern Cal and Lincoln Riley and Caleb Williams, but they got hold of Stanford over the weekend, able to pick up the victory. They move up 3 spots to number 7. Oklahoma State jumping 3 spots to number 8. And the biggest mover of the weekend, Kentucky, goes 11 spots after going into Gainesville and picking up the win. Kentucky now a top 10 team. Kentucky at number 9 in the new AP Top 25. And right behind them, number 10, Arkansas. Arkansas jumps 6 spots this past weekend. So not to sell you on the fact that South Carolina has a tough schedule. You were already aware of that, but it looks like the Gamecocks' first 3 opponents, if Kentucky is able to hold the first 3 opponents will all be some form of top 10 teams with Georgia, Kentucky, and Arkansas, the first 3 SEC opponents for the Gamecocks this year. But Mark Stoops, who, by the way, was mentioned a little bit yesterday. I don't know how far down the rabbit hole Nebraska has been able to get with their coaching search. I don't know if there was maybe some behind the scenes investigating already taking place in Lincoln prior to Scott Frost being let go. Mark Stoops yesterday being mentioned a little bit more prominently in regards to that Nebraska job. I did also, by the way, see Jamie Chadwell's name kind of thrown around. That's a big list right now. It's one that I don't know it's really even worth discussing. Mark Stoops, though, could potentially be a really good fit there in Lincoln, Nebraska, because of the way he's run that Kentucky program. And maybe he's ready to make a move. Maybe he's tired of having to deal with a basketball first school. And obviously going to Nebraska, you would be the football first head coach. You would be the main man there. And the way he's run that Kentucky program, I think would make him a very natural, very good fit at Nebraska. But Mark Stoops getting Kentucky into the top 10. They jump 11 spots in the AP Top 25, number 9. I just mentioned Arkansas now jumping 6 spots. They are number 10 there in the poll. So 4 SEC teams in the AP Top 10, Georgia, Bama, Kentucky, and Arkansas. Behind them, Michigan State moves up 3 spots. BYU, with that double overtime win over Oregon, moves up 9 spots to number 12. BYU beat Baylor. BYU plays Oregon this weekend. BYU beat Baylor in double overtime, 26-20. They get Oregon this coming Saturday night. Miami moves up 2 spots, number 13. Miami heading out to Texas A&M this coming weekend, 9 p.m. on ESPN. Utah, after thrashing Southern Utah, moves down one spot to 14. And Tennessee, a big riser this weekend. They, of course, went on the road and knocked off Pittsburgh. They move up to number 15 in the polls. The rest of it is NC State at 16, Baylor 17, Florida drops 6 spots to number 18, Wake Forest at 19, Mississippi 20. Texas loses. Let me repeat this. Texas loses to Alabama. I know by a point. And hey, the Longhorns are now ranked 1-1 on the season, but after a 1-point loss, Texas jumps into the top 25. Penn State's at 22. Pittsburgh, after that loss, drops 6 spots to 23. Texas A&M, after the loss to Appalachian State, falls to 24, and Oregon moves into the top 25. They now check in right there at number 25. So there's your kind of rankings. Dropping out of the rankings, Notre Dame, Wisconsin, who lost to Washington State, and Houston. We'll continue on, get into a little more college football there as it pertains to the big picture, as well as South Carolina. J.C. Shurburtt set to join us in about 17 minutes. If you want to weigh in, 803-404-6100. You're listening to the early game on 107.5 The Game.
Year was 2007, and on November 12, 107.5 The Game went on the air. And since then, we have celebrated with you 2 women's national championships in hoops. A spectacular performance as South Carolina has won the national championship.
Our 15th anniversary celebration on 107.5 The Game is sponsored by Lexington Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, getting you better sooner.
Captured its second national championship. Tears of triumph in 2022.
Happy anniversary to us on your home of the Gamecocks.
It comes with a great deal of pressure. Pressure because we were the number 1 team in the country throughout the entire season. Pressure to come into the NCAA tournament and be the favorites.
107.5 The Game.
And the new 107.5 The Game app. 107.5 The Game traffic from the Shepherd's Glass Traffic Center.
Shepherd's Glass, a true reflection of quality. shepherdsglass.com.
No accidents to report at this time. We hope that stays the situation throughout the morning. 86 for the high today with less humidity. 85 tomorrow and Thursday. 72 right now at 107.5 The Game.
Sponsored by Dell Technologies. Dell's semi-annual sale has arrived. Save big on top tech, including XPS and Alienware computers powered by 12th Gen Intel Core processors, plus free shipping on everything. Call 877-ASK-DELL.
Hey, it's Terry Ford from 107.5 The Game. Just want to yap with you a minute about real estate. Okay, if you're dealing in the real estate market, either buying or selling, it's the biggest transaction for a lot of folks that you'll ever make, right? So if you're going to be dealing with the biggest transaction you're ever going to make in your life, you need somebody you can trust and depend on. Because trust and dependability are kind of important when you're dealing with this kind of money. Paul Michael, Kevin Johnson, Jeff Cook Real Estate. 2 key values of the Johnson team: communication, availability. Don't believe me? Write down this number real quick. 803-770-5496. That's 803-770-5496. You call it, guess what happens? Kevin will personally take your call. It won't be some 800 number talking to some guy in Billings, Montana, who doesn't know Columbia, South Carolina from Columbia, Missouri, or the country Columbia. So if you're buying or selling a home, call Kevin Johnson of Jeff Cook Real Estate, 803-770-5496, or online at johnsonteamfc.com.
By now, you know that sound of the home.
Change up on promos. Okay.
And I did not let her on there.
Oh, wait a minute.
Very angry and wants to come down here.
Game
with Bill Gunter and Jen Jensen.
on your home of the Gamecocks.
The early game, 107.5.
The Game.
Eight 803-404-6100 if you want to weigh in this morning. Also, 107.5 The Game and Gamecock Central are giving you the chance to go to the Georgia game this weekend. Log on to 1075thegame.com, click on the Gamecock Central Takeover banner, and register to win a pair of tickets to see the Gamecocks take on the number one ranked Georgia Bulldogs this weekend. The deadline to enter is Thursday before 5:59 p.m. So 107.5 The Game and Gamecock Central giving you the chance to go to the Georgia game this weekend. Again, go to our website, 1075thegame.com, click on the Gamecock Central Takeover banner, and register to win a pair of tickets to see the Gamecocks take on the Bulldogs this weekend, Williams-Brice Stadium. Reminder, deadline to enter is Thursday before 5:59 p.m. So go to 1075 The Game there and look for that Gamecock Central Takeover banner. You can click and join there. A couple of you weighing in, just reading some of the stuff here that's popping up, and that way we can get your opinions as well. Andy weighing in. Texas got robbed. Alabama got all the calls until finally the refs had to start calling penalties. I'm not a Texas fan. I'm not a Bama fan. Texas got robbed, but not as bad as the Panthers. Didn't Alabama have, let me go back and look at the actual numbers. Didn't Alabama have a ridiculous amount of penalties in this game? Was I wrong on that? I feel like Alabama had, this was not Alabama. And by the way, just FYI on that, if I was looking around yesterday, Alabama fans are very, very unhappy through 2 weeks with Eric Wolford. They're kind of ready to make a change at the offensive line coach, and they were pretty upset yesterday with Eric Wolford and his offensive line's performance. To go back, penalties in that game. Yeah, Alabama had 15 penalties in that game for 100 yards. Texas had 5 penalties for 30 yards. There was also a really, really questionable play in the end zone there with Bryce Young, in which Alabama got kind of penalized. That was a fun game to watch, very entertaining, and Steve Sarkisian showed what he's capable of potentially building that program into. But very, very entertaining, very fun game to watch on Saturday. But yeah, Alabama, 15 penalties called on them Saturday for 100 yards. 803-404-61. Andy says should have had more. Will weighing in this morning. I was mentioning Kentucky moving up to number 9 in the AP Top 25. Will says, thanks for my laugh of the morning, Bill. No way. Kentucky is the 9th best team in college football. Joey from Sumter weighing in this morning says, if I'm going to hand the ball off, I would much prefer to turn around and hand it off to my 5-star running back as opposed to a tight end, period. Again, Jaheim Bell's not a tight end. I think he's a wide receiver, if anything. If he's not a tight end, I don't really like him classified as that. The whole other discussion that we had last week says, I don't understand why they can't just let him be what he is, which is a matchup nightmare for people when he plays tight. The Jaheim Bell discussion is really interesting. Because Jaheim Bell is a very good football player that I think needs to be lined up. 6'3", 230 pounds, has good speed. Everybody says he's a matchup. Look, Drew Sanders and Bumper Pool are really good athletes, and he was not a matchup nightmare for Drew Sanders or Bumper Pool. He's not a matchup nightmare for Georgia linebackers, and he probably will not be for Kentucky linebackers. Now, maybe he is a little bit against, say, a Vanderbilt or a Missouri. I'm not going to sit here and pretend I know enough about their linebackers at this point in time. Jaheim Bell's a very solid player. I think because of his physical size, he's better suited to line up and go against defensive backs and be able to use his size to body up those guys as opposed to linebackers. Again, Drew Sanders was very impressive on Saturday to me for Arkansas. Of course, the former 5-star wide receiver the former 5-star linebacker that went to Alabama and transferred to Arkansas. But I think, to me, the inexperienced opinion as a coach, I think Jaheim Bell should be lined up out there with, again, you got Bell, You got Wells. And again, I'd line up Jalen Brooks. I think Jalen Brooks is developing or has developed into a very nice wide receiver that can really make things happen. He's got really good hands, maybe very underrated hands on this staff. And then if you can get Corey Rutger back to go along with Amarion Brown, get Xavier Leggett to produce a little bit, you have actually a really nice wide receiver group if that was the direction you wanted to go. But the Jaheim Bell thing is actually really kind of interesting because if you look at his career statistics, he's had 2 monster games in his career that account for really the vast majority of yardage and for receptions in his career. You go back last year against Vanderbilt, he had a monster game in that victory for South Carolina against the Commodores. And then we all know about the North Carolina game in which he had the 2 really long touchdown catches. Last year against Vanderbilt, it was 6 catches, 136 yards, and a touchdown. And then the bowl game, 5 catches, 159 yards, and 2 touchdowns for his season last year. He had 5 touchdown catches, 30 receptions overall, 497 yards. But the bulk of that coming in those 2 games. I would just put him at wide receiver and let him body up smaller defensive backs and get matched up there. 803-404-6100. Again, how you can weigh in this morning. So just a couple things that some of y'all are sending in and texting in. We'll get to J.C. Shurburtt coming up in the next hour. We'll get his opinion on what he saw this past weekend. Again, there's some positive things. Talk about that passing game, if it can continue to evolve. Spencer Rattler looking like he's settling down, being the quarterback we expected him to be. Did make a couple mistakes, obviously, but he looks like he's starting to settle down a little bit. And the Gamecocks were within 5 midway through the 3rd quarter. They had fallen behind. They do have to get that fixed. You can't come out to Georgia on Saturday and be down 21-0 or worse in the blink of an eye. You've got to battle early on, or whatever it is this staff is doing has got to change a little bit as it pertains to having your team ready coming out of the gate. We'll talk with J.C. Shurburtt in the next hour about that. Get his thoughts and opinions, and we'll get yours as well if you want to weigh in. You're listening to Jen Jensen, Bill Gunner. It's the early game, 6:56 on a Tuesday morning here on 107.5 The Game.
The home of the Gamecocks. 107.5 The Game. WNKT-FM, Eastover, Columbia.
A Cumulus media station.
The demand for your used car is at an all-time high, and it's never been worth more. Herndon Chevrolet needs your trade. We'll buy your car, even if you don't buy ours. And to prove it, we're willing to beat any written offer by $500. That's right. We'll beat any written offer by $500. Visit Herndon Chevrolet today.
Herndon Chevrolet, Herndon makes you wanna smile.
Smile. 803-630-5929.
Life is short, and if we spend our time and it takes away our joy, that's not a
All right.
He's right. It's hard to be happy when you're in constant pain. QC Kinetics patient Chad admits the chronic pain in his knee really robbed his quality of life.
When I was going to the traditional doctor and getting the pain pills, my smile wasn't as big as it usually is. Going to my high school reunion on crutches, it was awful.
But then Chad visited QC Kinetics. He experienced the real power behind natural regenerative treatments. Using healing properties from his own body, QC Kinetics was able to restore and repair damaged tissue, finally giving Chad lasting relief with no drugs, no surgery, and no downtime.
And I'm feeling on top of the world because of QC Kinetics.
Learn how advanced regenerative medicine can help your body heal itself at QC Kinetics. Call now for your free consultation.
Call QC Kinetics, 803-281-6860. That's 803-281-6860. 803-281-6860.
Sorry, been a little busy this morning.
My Pillow is having their biggest bed sheet sale ever. The My Pillow for Chaos sheets are available in a variety of colors, and all sizes are on sale. For example, the queen size, regular price $89.98, now only $39.98 with your promo code. Order now, as there's a very limited supply. The My Pillow for Chaos sheets are breathable and have a cool, crisp feel. They have deep pockets to fit over any mattress. These come with a 10-year warranty and a 60-day money-back guarantee. Go to mypillow.com and click on the radio listen square and use promo code Westwood to receive the My Pillow for KO sheets for as low as $20.
Oh, we need to get a tweet out.
Because when they're gone, they're gone. Or call 800-653-7485 and use promo code Westwood.
This football season and every football season, come to campus and catch a game. Whatever the game, whoever you're with, just catch a game. Find your tickets online at GamecocksOnline.com. What we're talking about on 107.5 The Game.
Sponsored by Love Chevrolet. We will never charge above MSRP or take advantage of you with add-ons. I-26 in Harbison and at lovechevy.com. Find new roads.
The early game with Bill Gunter.
I think I've got you set up over there, Coach. You might have some headphones, you might not. Not real sure. Apologize. Got a lot going.
Computers don't work, is that what you're saying?
I am trying to find this iPad so we can put him on the live stream as well. But
It's basically a well-oiled machine. You're right on top of things. You have everything prepared.
this iPad has dominated me this morning. Like, it has been a beating at the hands of this iPad. We'll see if I got it fixed there.
On your home of the Gamecocks.
Today's phrase of the day is, I have no clue.
107.5.
If you say, I have no clue, this means I don't know. In fact, I don't even have any idea.
The Game.
Our number 2 of the early game, Bill Gunner, now joined by J.C. Shurburtt of thebigspur.com, Jen Jensen, as we get you up and get you going here on a Tuesday morning. Hope you're doing well. Hopefully you enjoyed the end of the first full weekend, J.C. That was it. We had you started with NFL on Thursday night. You had high school on Friday night. You had college on Saturday, NFL Sunday, and you got the Broncos kicking a really, really, really long field goal despite paying a whole lot of money to Russell Wilson on 4th and 5 to lose a football game last night. I don't know if you stayed up all night or you were still celebrating with residents of Chicago who the Bears beat the 49ers this week and made Trey Lance look pretty bad.
Yeah, actually, Mike Morgan, who everybody knows, was in town calling that game for national radio. So I got a chance to go downtown and, I don't live downtown, obviously, but excuse me, we got a chance to go downtown and see him and just sort of see the atmosphere. It's real interesting in these pro towns. I don't think we quite get it down south. I think you walk in on a football Sunday to like a Buffalo Wild Wings down south and you'll see, 10, 15 different jerseys people have on. Folks are there just pulling for their fantasy team, that kind of thing. But in these pro towns, the passion is just as real as it is for the colleges down south. It's like a Gamecock type atmosphere. And they won. It was a monsoon. It was a bad field. Trey Lance, though, did not look very good. And Justin Fields made enough plays, I think, especially toward the end, kind of got in a rhythm. And they won. And that's good for them. They were projected to be the probably the worst team in the NFL. So who knows? There's 15 games left, but that certainly was a decent start for Matt Eberflus, who is the new coach of the Bears.
So a good weekend for the Bears, but more importantly around here, it was an interesting weekend for South Carolina JC. Again, I think the natural reaction, they lose to Arkansas. I've said this. I said it a lot yesterday. I think I underrated Arkansas. I going back to SEC media days, I thought maybe that they would not live up to some of the hype. A lot of people say maybe they would be able to challenge Alabama in the West, and Alabama had their one weird game, I think, against Texas where it's, they get penalized 15 times. Things don't go right. But I think I might have personally underrated Arkansas because watching them Saturday, Sam Pittman has done a really good job of building that program in the identity that he wants. They're physical. They run the ball. They then turn the jukebox on and apparently drink cold beer to celebrate.
Well, I mean, look, Kendall Browse, that offense, when they get the run game going, it's just ridiculously. And you have to also take into account, what other quarterback on the schedule, maybe you say Anthony Richardson, but he's not in that scheme, is going to be able to do the things KJ Jefferson does. I mean, you look at Jefferson and it's like, okay, well, they can't tackle him. And he'll fall forward for 2 yards, because he's so big. And then, you start thinking about it. And the whole key for the Gamecocks defense was don't get in third and less than 5. Don't, first 2 downs are your money downs really in that situation, because you want to force them into being a vertical passing team. And that just never happened. They were masterful. Rocket Sanders, yet another Arkansas running back that runs roughshod over South Carolina. I don't know what it is. But going back to Madre Hill, Darren McFadden, and Felix Jones, all those guys tend to have good games against the Gamecocks. South Carolina had its chances. Sort of disappointing. You cut it to 21-16 with a monster play to Juice Wells. And then they get it right back and go down, and you stop them, and then you can't do anything on offense. And so then they get the ball back, and, from there it got out of control again. Gamecocks fall back. And that's the ball game. I mean, the South Carolina things they have to get better at, yes, especially by this weekend. But, I think at times when you kind of think about through 2 weeks and you compare all the teams around the SEC, Arkansas is in the top 10. I think they deserve to be. I'm sure there's some school that does, but there's 2 good wins there, Cincinnati and Carolina. I'm interested to see what they do October 1st against Alabama. If they can beat A&M doesn't get up off the mat, that kind of thing. So they could be a challenger in the SEC West. I just think when you look at their offense, it's very hard to stop. When you look at their defense, Drew Sanders kind of started playing, he was a 5-star recruit. He played like it Saturday. I think he was the Walter Camp National Defensive Player of the Week. One-man wrecking crew in a lot of ways against the Gamecocks offense. So, sometimes I think you just got to give credit to the other team and say, yes, there are areas where the Gamecocks did not play well, where they have to clean it up. But, that's a very, very difficult football team on defense to stop. And then their defense is pretty solid as well. And, with Sanders and all that gives you problems. So, you kind of look back at it and you're like, well, I'm with you. I kind of probably underrated them slightly. They're big and physical. I could really care less how many stars were by their offensive line's names as recruits. Those guys may be the best offensive line in the country. You look at how they just moved Carolina. They moved Cincinnati the week before. They are a very, very good unit. And when you combine all those factors as far as what they bring to the table and how you have to stop them, it's extremely difficult. So I think that, maybe on the Carolina end, you kind of think, here we go again, whatever. But sometimes you have to look at who you're playing and like the actual matchups and not the recruiting rankings. And you can see that this won't be the last team Arkansas does that to. Mark my words on that. So, I think you just flush it and move on and get ready for Georgia.
Well, I think that the question will become, and this is kind of what I've talked about this morning, the key word, at least through the first now 4 hours of this program and maybe on this whole station yesterday, was physical. How physical is South Carolina? They tried to line up and be physical. They got, as you mentioned, they got pushed around offensively, defensively. I put the stat out yesterday, JC, and, obviously we've talked about the offensive line for South Carolina a lot, but you were just talking about the Arkansas offensive line, how they moved it. South Carolina has now given up 200 yards rushing in 6 of the last 10 games, and Auburn had 191 yards in their loss. So 6 games over 200. Auburn was right there on the cusp of it with a 191, and maybe that's because Mike Bobo forgot Tank Bigsby is pretty good at running the football and didn't want to give it to him one more time. But this defensive line, let's go back to the question that I asked you last week about the offensive line. the talent there, was it slightly overrated? Is it scheme? Is it physicalness? Are they not getting done in the weight room what they need to do? Because Clemson last year goes for 265, North Carolina for 128 in the bowl game, 200 by Georgia State. I know 2 of those runs were really long out of the 40 carries. And then Saturday, you mentioned at 65 carries, 295 yards.
Yeah, I mean, that's hard to say. I mean, there's some buzz out there about, them not being physically strong. I don't buy that. I mean, I think, they got one of the best strength programs, I think, in the SEC, and the guys worked hard. I think that it depends on the matchup. And last year, probably the most disappointing game for the defense was that Clemson game. I thought, the Tigers weren't exactly a juggernaut, and they just basically came in and ran it all over Carolina, and all that. And I don't think that Clemson team had the offensive line that Arkansas has this year. Auburn certainly did not. And several other teams certainly. I mean, Missouri did, and that was a leaky game rushing the ball. Tyler Beatty had a big game. So at some point, you do hope that these defensive linemen and linebackers and the whole front seven, gets better at stopping the run. I still think they're capable. I just, you just can't keep getting pushed around like that. And somebody asked me after the game, well, what did you think about the game? And I was like, well, this team's got to get tougher. They got to get more physical, especially in the trenches. And that's something that's sometimes not hard to correct. And sometimes it is, because there's a mindset there. I thought on certain plays, Zach Pickens, for example, I thought he had a really good game, and made some big plays, especially on some stops and stuff, but it was hard for him to get off blocks. I thought losing Boogie Huntley early, even though I thought Webb and Hemingway played pretty well, I thought having him go out for a while early on may have cost them. And then certainly losing Mokaba, even though Green played pretty well, I thought that was a big deal too in the football game. So, I don't know. I think it's kind of to be determined. You mentioned the Georgia State game. I thought the run defense in that game was actually good. I use that term leaky. It was leaky early and a little bit leaky late, but Georgia State's going to run the ball on a lot of teams this year. And I thought that in the middle of that game, the defense made a good account of itself and actually did stop the run. So, we'll see. It's sort of a mixed bag this year. You do go back to last year, and you did point that out, Bill, and that's accurate. But, we've had a whole off season. These guys have been in the weight room. There's different players out there. So, we'll see what they can do against the Bulldogs this weekend. I'm going to caution everybody and say, look, Georgia's not just a line up and run it at you 40 times a game team anymore. They can throw it too. And you got Bennett, the tight ends, Bowers, receivers, and they love to hit McIntosh out of the backfield. So there's some pass defense that has to take place this weekend too if they're going to have any shot at winning.
We'll get into the injuries that were announced yesterday, Jordan Straw and Mo Kaba, and there has been one player who I think has been, without a doubt, the most physical on the defense. We'll talk about Nick Eamon-Warry and how you see him now being utilized with the return. Should be the return of R.J. Roderick. Sounds like that's what Shane Beamer is basically alluding to, that Roderick will be back this week. So a lot to get to there, kind of reanalyze everything we saw. And it's a long season, JC. We've only played 2 games. A lot can continue to change. So you don't always want to panic, and we'll try and keep everybody from panicking this morning as we roll along. He's JC Shurburtt. I'm Bill Gunner. She's Jen Jensen. You're listening to The Early Game on 107.5 The Game.
The Extra Point with Pearson, Preston,
and the guys from Gamecock Central.
I thought it was very reasonable for Carolina to come up with that game plan. We talked about it last week. They're down a couple defensive backs. Spencer's maybe your best weapon. You're an underdog. You're on the road. You're going to need to hit some of those big plays. I thought it was a perfectly fine game plan.
Yes.
I was waiting on the but. It's not a but. It's a both things can be true.
I'll give the but. Yes. However, if South Carolina was down a couple of defensive backs. Do you think Arkansas would say, "Oh, we're going to throw the ball this game"?
Yeah, I think that Arkansas is better. Like, they have the established identity from last season that they could then carry over because aside from Treylon Burks, they bring back, their quarterback and a lot of their guys. They have that system in place.
Get the point? The extra point.
You've heard me talking a lot about AAA heating and air over the last month or so and the big changes that are being implemented by government regulations, how current HVAC inventory cannot be sold after December 31st, and how you will likely pay an average of 30% more for a new Sear 2 HVAC system. That's why I continue to tell you, there's no better time than right now to contact AAA Heating and Air, 803-677-1500, to make a purchase on a brand new heating and air unit. AAA Heating and Air must empty their warehouse to make room for these new systems, and no deals will be turned down. They'll have their 15-year parts and labor warranty. But here's the absolute best part. Guaranteed financing. That doesn't mean if you have incredible credit or even great credit. It means if you can come up with some money, work with AAA Heating and Air, they're not going to turn down the deal. They're going to work with you. They're going to find a way to get you financed. That's kind of what guaranteed financing means, to make sure you get that new heating and air unit. You can call them today and enjoy new comfort in your home as quickly as tomorrow. You just need to tell them Bill Gunner sent you. 803-677-1500. Again, that's 803-677-1500. I've trusted AAA Heating and Air to keep my home heated and air conditioned during the summer. You've been around a Columbia summer. You're familiar how important air conditioning is when you live in Columbia. They've done a fantastic job. I believe in them. Roy, Dana Finley, they do an incredible job. They treat me like a family member. They'll do the same for you. That's why they do guaranteed financing. That's why they offer their 15-year parts and labor warranty. So call today and get that new deal in place. 803-677-1500. That's AAA Heating and Air. Call them today. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you.
107.5 The Game traffic from the Shepherd's Glass Traffic Center.
Shepherd's Glass, a true reflection of quality. shepherdsglass.com.
I-20 westbound at Alpine Road, just a disabled vehicle there, but people might be slowing down a little bit, gotta check things out. Regardless, though, outside of that, no other accidents to report. Less humid today, 86 for our high, going to be 85 for the next few days. Right now, though, kind of a nice start. It is 72 at 107.5 The Game.
This is Boomer Science with CBS Sports Minute, sponsored by Indeed. Attract, interview, and hire at Indeed.com/credit. This year's biggest NFL bet is the one Baltimore's Lamar Jackson has made on himself. He's in a contract, as we all know. He can break the bank if he stays healthy, but that's a big if for the type of quarterback he is.
All right, so got Piper to the vet. That was fun. Being the Husky,
Looked like she didn't want to leave the car.
She's having a little hip issue, which isn't helping. So I actually have a ramp for her to go down, and I think just to stand was part of the problem. But part of it was like, hey, I'm pretty comfortable. I've got my little hammock in the back and whatever. But
Well, you're comfortable in the car. Why leave? It's always my opinion.
Exactly. I'm sure that, of course she knows that she'll get a treat after she gets back, but she's had quite the little weight loss. So that's been cool because she's one that she can open doors and open like pantry doors. So she helped herself into some pretty significant weight gain at one time. So she's lost like almost 20 pounds.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah. For a dog, I feel like it's, but they do have the warning on her chart that says she opens doors. Because literally she let herself during COVID when you couldn't go in, they brought her back out to the car and they said, well, we're going to have to bring her out here to wait until the doctor can come talk to you because she's a flight risk. She's let herself out of the room.
Very smart dog.
Yeah, she's
not sure what y'all are doing at that house, but
yeah,
very
lever doors we thought were a good idea till we got her lever doorknobs. So that was my excitement yesterday.
practice and play on a driving range, putting greens, and a Keystone designed golf course. Visit FOREtomorrow.com to learn more.
This is a paid advertisement. Blackie Shurburtt with principal offices in Houston, Texas, is responsible for the content of this advertisement. Brandon Pettijohn is attorney licensed in North Carolina. You may be entitled to significant cash compensation. Call 800-927-2971 now to see if you qualify. That's right. Marines, their families, employees, contractors, and anyone who lives, works, or serves.
Oh boy.
Yeah. I'm with you.
With toxic chemicals for decades, causing serious health
I didn't realize Texas A&M only had 186 yards of total offense against App State. Wow. Wow, A&M ran 82 plays to 38, or excuse me, App State ran 82 plays to just 38 for A&M.
800-927-2971. Hey, Gamecock fans, this is William DeMoncho with Coldwell Banker Realty. As we move my parents Danny and Karen Hood have been striving to get better than expected real estate service to our clients in the Midlands of South Carolina. In 2014, I joined them. And since then, the Hood team has consistently been recognized as the #1 Coldwell Banker Realty small team in the Carolinas. So if you want honesty, integrity, and results backed by experience in buying or selling real estate, call the Hood team at 303-730-2512.
I don't watch these Josh Pate podcasts, just the late kick, but the numbers here are staggering. Josh Pate pulled out multiple stats illustrating the talent and resource gaps between Texas A&M and Appalachian State. 5-star and 4-star players on the roster. Texas A&M has 56. Appalachian State has 1. Average recruiting ranking the last 5 years. Texas A&M 7.6. App State 90.6. Football spending. Texas A&M spends $37 million. App State $10 million. Combined coaching staff salaries. Texas A&M spends $16.5 million per year on their coaching staff. App State spends $3 million.
Whew. Wow. So basically, App State should be having the same kind of party as Notre Dame after this weekend.
Pretty much. Jesus.
Yeah, I'm with you, Hope. It was fun. It really was. So does that prove you don't have to have money to win all the time?
No, I think it just goes to show that if you got a bad scheme,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, I know you do to compete, but
Broadcasting live from the Shurburtt Chevrolet studio. This is 1075 The Game. Stop by, shop online today, and see why
Chevrolet makes you smile. The early game
With Bill Gunter and Jen Jensen.
on your home of the Gamecocks. The early game.
1075 The Game.
This Friday, you can start getting geared up for the big game on Saturday by joining Heath Klein for Game Time Football Friday, 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. at Columbia Craft on Green Street. Columbia Craft can be your game day headquarters. Columbia Craft, proudly distributed throughout the Midlands by KW Beverage. So go visit Heath Klein, 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. at Columbia Craft this Friday on Green Street. Hang out with him, get his thoughts and opinions on the game, have a few beverages with the great folks at Columbia Craft over there on Green Street. That'll be this Friday, hanging out with Heath Klein. We're hanging out right now with JC Shurburtt, as we do each and every Tuesday, talking a little South Carolina football as they come off a 44-30 victory over South Carolina. And, JC, we're kind of accentuating. There are some positives. There's negatives. I get it. There's things that South Carolina's got to get fixed. One of the positives, though, has been Nick Eamon-Worry, the freshman from Irma, who's come in and I think has given life to that secondary and is one of the reasons you believe in Torian Gray, you believe in improvement within the program. all the things that Nick Eamon-Warry is showing, I believe, leads you to know that maybe some better days are on the way with this football program if you can continue to get guys in like him.
Yeah, and he was a heck of an evaluation by the staff. I remember when he camped, you know, they were like, the 6'3", 225-pound kid from Irmo here. You know, you put him at corner and he breaks up a pass. You put him at safety and he intercepts a pass. You put him at linebacker and he's making his fits or whatever. You know, of course, you don't tackle in camp, but I've been impressed with his physicality, Bill. His instincts are advanced. I don't think that's something any of us that follow recruiting do. You know, I think he was kind of a guy that like, wow, there's some upside here in a couple of years. You know, he's going to be special, but it's going to take some time. I think that's the surprise, just how good he is right away. And several times, you know, on Saturday, I remember the first drive of the game. Here comes Nick, you know, from the other side of the field almost, and stops the Arkansas running back, I think, short of the goal line or short of the first down. They went for it on fourth and got it, and they scored their first touchdown. But, you know, he's a load. He's a tackler. He had the best hit on KJ Jefferson the whole day. And he's just out there playing ball. And you got to like that about a kid from Irmo. You know, I think he had South Carolina and Virginia Tech were his two offers. And that you got, and you sort of with him and DQ Smith, and, you know, then even Xavier Short, who hadn't played this year, but who did some good things in preseason. You got to feel good about, you know, Carolina getting some of those kids out of the Midlands and keeping them at home and making strong evaluations on them because it looks like they're going to hit on most of those guys. So that's good recruiting. I always say that bad recruiting is not when your class isn't ranked high. It's when you get good players in your state or in your area, and they go someplace else and play really well. And that was an issue with the previous staff at wide receiver here. And that can be bad recruiting, right? When you make a decision not to go on a guy and he goes someplace else and stars. So good job recruiting by the staff, and certainly, you know, Torrey and Gray getting him ready to roll this early is just another example of why, you know, Gray may be the best defensive backs coach in the country. Just what he does on an annual basis and what he's always done at all of his stops is just extremely impressive. You know, a guy that just gets the absolute most out of his players and does it pretty rapidly. So I actually, you know, Eamon-Warry could end up being one of the better safeties to come through this program when all is said and done.
Well, I think that raises the question then: how does Clayton White, Torian Gray, how do they handle this coming weekend? R.J. Roderick is back; he's got a lot of experience. Eamon-Warry, to me, has kind of earned that starting position there, but I don't know if maybe you can consider moving him down to give you a little bit more athleticism. Sherrod Green, Brad Johnson, not bad linebackers; they've played there for a while, but because I think that's the big question for me. That's why I ask you, how do you go about shifting your secondary or moving Eamon-Warry around to get the most out of him if R.J. Roderick is coming back? Or is it as simple as, hey, R.J. Roderick just lost his spot?
Well, I don't expect Eamon-Warry's playing time to go down. I think that even if they start RJ, you know, and what you mentioned is not a bad idea, Bill, but I mean, it's hard to do that with a freshman in a week.
Mm-hmm.
You know, moving him down or letting him play nickel or, you know, whatever you want. Now, could he handle it? I mean, he's passed every test so far, but I think what you'll see, even if RJ starts the game, because, you know, in football programs, you normally don't lose your job because you're injured, you know. Even if R.J. Roderick starts, I do expect Nick to play a bunch of snaps Saturday. They're going to need him. And so I think that's probably how they'll handle it, you know, in terms of, you know, getting him on the field enough while also, you know, being respectful to a guy that's been around for 5 or 6 years that just, you know, through no fault of his own, he got hurt, you know, didn't get to play last week. But, make no mistake about it. Through 2 games, Nick Emanware has been a superstar back there, and so I just don't anticipate, based on what I've heard, his snap count being decreased a whole lot on Saturday.
JC Shurburtt joining us as he does each and every Tuesday to go over what he saw in South Carolina and, of course, weigh in on several other topics. We'll get to some college football stuff as well. There's a great article on 24/7 Sports about the Texas A&M football program, JC, written here. A lot of it's written by Robbie Weinstein, and a lot of it has to do with Josh Pate's Late Kick podcast that he does, and it breaks down some of the numbers. We'll certainly talk a little big picture college football with you as well. But with South Carolina, the injuries is something that it's unfortunate. Mo Kaba, I was talking about this in the first hour. He battles back from the high school injury, and as you kind of were alluding to in the first segment, he was playing really well and really was coming along, developing into that 4-star linebacker, and was a big piece of this defense. And now you lose him. Jordan Strawn hurts too. But I actually think the Mo Kaba lost, man, because he was developing. He was finally becoming that guy. The confidence was there. And Sherrod Green's a good backup, but that one's going to sting.
I think so. Well, I think a lot of it's up to Sherrod Green. I mean, it's been unfortunate because you talk about injuries. Green got hurt, the first game in 2020? And I was told by, a source on that staff that really hurt him because, whereas you would have had Ernest Jones and Sherrod Green out there, you had to go with some other people that weren't quite ready to go. And then by the end of that year, Carolina had nobody but Ernest Jones out there at linebacker. I mean, they were playing Darrell Ware and Gilbert Edmond and those guys. And of course, that was kind of the way it was for everybody in the 2020 because of the pandemic and all that. Then last year, I thought Eastern Illinois, East Carolina, Sherrod played really, really well. I thought he was playing well at Georgia, and then the injury happened. And so, with him, I just think the bottom line was Mo Kaba was better during the preseason. I mean, you only start 2. It's a 4-2-5. And Brad Johnson plays the will. And so it ended up being Kaba. And so now Green's in. I thought Green held his own Saturday. So he's got to go out there and play and stay healthy and be the guy that, he probably could have been the last 2 years had he simply not gotten hurt. So I think that's it. I do think, when you look at it, it's just your heart just breaks for Mo Kaba. He's such a good kid. Obviously, a very a superstar, if you will, in the NIL world, with the work he does and all that, a great story. And so your heart goes out to him, because this is the second time it's happened. Of course, you mentioned the high school injury, but, Green's got to step up. I think Stone Blanton, the true freshman from Mississippi, is going to see some playing time now. He's got a lot of talent, a lot of toughness about him. He's a big hitter. But, that's not all there is to playing linebacker. You have to have good eyes, not take false steps, and get bounced out of gaps and things like that. So, Stone will step in. That's why you recruit is, you get guys in and, maybe you have some injuries. And so there they get their chance. And that's only better for Stone Blanton as he gets more comfortable and develops. So, all is not lost, I think, in terms of the Kaba injury. I think the Strawn injury is a little different because I thought he was their best pass rusher. And the pass rush really hasn't, gotten going. Jordan Birch had some plays Saturday, but, they were already pretty thin at D end. So Gilbert Edmond's going to have to step up and play well. He's another guy with a lot of upside that's, had his moment so far this year. And then, Terrell Dawkins, the transfer from NC State, who they got out of the portal. He's a younger player still, even though he came in from the portal. But, he's got to get in there and make some things happen and provide that depth on that side, or I guess the buck position or whatever, now that Strong's out.
Yeah, I want to get into Terrell Dawkins, also a couple other players as well. People that you think that maybe we haven't heard from that need to step up, improve, do something. There's a couple names that have been kind of asked about. DeCarrion Joyner, Josh Vann. Jaheim Bell's been out there, just does odd touches for him. But Terrell Dawkins is an interesting. We'll talk about that, get into some of those players when we return. It's JC Shurburtt. It's Bill Gunner. It's Jen Jensen. You're listening to The Early Game on 107.5 The Game.
107.5 The Game's 15th Anniversary Rewind.
2008. Bernie Madoff was arrested and charged with securities fraud in what would eventually become the worst Ponzi scheme in history. No Country for Old Men won Best Picture at the Academy Awards.
Where does it work? Sir, I ain't at liberty to give out no information about our residence.
Where does it work?
Did you not hear me?
The New York Giants upset the undefeated New England Patriots in the Super Bowl.
Manning lobs it. Burris alone. Touchdown, New York.
At South Carolina, the football team under Steve Spurrier went 7-6 and lost to Iowa in the Outback Bowl.
What a big-time return by Captain Munnerlyn that goes 84 yards.
The basketball team was 14-18 in Dave Odom's last season, and the baseball team under Ray Tanner advanced to the regionals in Raleigh.
Our 15th anniversary celebration on 107.5 The Game is sponsored by Lexington Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, getting you better sooner.
107.5 The Game traffic from the Shepherd's Glass Traffic Center.
Shepherd's Glass, a true reflection of quality. shepherdsglass.com.
Up in Blythewood, we have a car versus deer incident, Folk Road, just before Wilson Boulevard. And a report of an accident, I-26 eastbound at Bush River Road. Less humid today, 86 for the high, going to be 85 for the next few days. No rain in the forecast as of right now. But right now, pretty nice, 72 at 107.5 The Game.
Paid non-attorney spokesperson. Case Legal Media is responsible for the content of this ad. Attention, all military members or military families or contractors that spent time at Marine Base Camp Lejeune. If you or a family member lived, worked, or served at Camp Lejeune at any time from 1953 to 1987, you may be entitled to significant cash compensation. Call 800-320-9047 now to see if you qualify. That's right. Marines, their families, employees, contractors, and anyone who lived, worked, or served at Camp Lejeune may be entitled to significant cash compensation. Studies have found the water at Camp Lejeune was contaminated with toxic chemicals for decades, causing serious health conditions such as cancer, Parkinson's, leukemia, and non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Congress has approved, and President Biden has signed a new law allowing anyone that spent time at the base to seek the justice they deserve. Billions have been set aside for victims of toxic water claims. If you or a loved one was at Camp Lejeune at any time through 1987 and developed a serious health condition, you or your family may be entitled to significant cash compensation. Hurry, time is limited. Call 800-320-9047. That's 800-320-9047. 800-320-9047.
Yeah, it's awesome. Congratulations. I saw you put that on Twitter. Was that the daughter that just had the baby, or you got two daughters, or I didn't know which daughter that was, but yeah, congratulations. Awesome news. Yeah, if you didn't see.
Yeah, that's huge. Think about how many teachers there are, to be able to get that.
Not just the district. That's pretty cool.
Exactly. That's a big deal.
I am confused how it's the start of the year, so I guess that was for the last year. If you're a teacher of the year. Oh, good. Boy, big year for her.
I was going to say, right?
That's
pretty impressive. Yeah, it's teacher of the year. If they survive the first month, they get an award.
She's putting a lot of pressure on her siblings to perform.
Well, especially seeing that her youngest daughter is also studying to be a teacher.
Well, yeah.
Mad props.
Sounds like you need to be on the phone with the other two children today, telling them that they've got to live up to the oldest, I guess, or the whatever.
Exactly. The bar has been set pretty darn high.
The bar is set, yes.
Not that bar, Bill.
So tell him she has brought the family name good publicity and provided a grandchild this year. She is definitely the favorite, and Christmas will reflect that. Yeah. I gotta buy coffee today. I stopped at Dunkin' Donuts the last 2 days. It's not good for my health kick that I'm trying to go on.
All right.
All right. Yep, men's soccer tonight. I need to text Coach Ann here in a minute and see. Make sure he'll be able to come in. I send him a text here. I'm awake. I worked out yesterday, and I could tell like a massive difference in energy, like just throughout the day. And I woke up at like 2:30 this morning, and I was like just good to go. Like I had energy at 2:30. I mean, I went to bed. I watched a quarter of that Monday night football game. I just didn't have it. I tried. I wanted to step and watch the Monday night game, but I didn't have a financial investment. I don't have a rooting interest. I'm not that big of a Broncos or Seahawks fan. I'm not that big of a Russell Wilson fan. Like a good night of sleep was going to do me better. But man, I woke up at 2:30, like ready to go.
$7:40 on a Tuesday morning. JC Shurburtt, Bill Gunner, Jen Jensen, as we get you up and get you going. Talking obviously South Carolina football because a very interesting weekend, JC. And again, you go on the road. South Carolina's a 9.5-point underdog. They lose by 14. Probably about right. Again, Arkansas was just a more impressive football team than South Carolina. And as you said, sometimes you just chalk it up to that. The Gamecocks have still a lot of rebuilding to do. Some of it, though, involves some of these guys who I feel like maybe we didn't expect. Maybe we did expect. Josh Vann has won right now one catch through the first 8 quarters. One catch, 9 yards, I believe, is the number for him. Is he just getting lost, you think, with the emergence of Wells? And by the way, kudos to Jalen Brooks. Jalen Brooks looks like another very good SEC wide receiver. Big kid, physical, and he's making some really tough catches when he gets the opportunity.
Absolutely. I mean, I've been impressed with Brooks. I think he's been a surprise. Probably if you had one surprise on offense in a positive way, and then one on defense, I'd say Brooks on offense and Emin Warry on defense. But Jalen's never been a guy that didn't fit athletically. I think the frustration of the offense overall the last couple of years and then some untimely drops kind of gave him, not a bad rep, but like people kind of just assumed he wasn't that good. But it just goes to show you that, some of these guys that you get from the lower levels can play football. And he can. And we don't know what would have happened second half of last season. I do know that when he returned from his suspension or whatever you call it, the staff wanted him back. I mean, and they kind of had a numbers issue too that they were trying to get under, and they welcomed him back with open arms. And there's a reason for that. He's fast. He plays hard. It looks like he's got a knack now for making tough catches. You mentioned Josh Vann. I think Vann needs to kind of settle in. I think he's probably pressing a little bit. I think that causes drops sometimes, and he just hasn't gotten a whole lot of targets. And when you think about it, Wells is playing so well. I think he leads the SEC in receiving after 2 weeks. And Brooks is playing well. I mean, but they do need those other guys to step up. I mean, I did think that, targeting Amari and Brown down the field that's exactly kind of his game. That's what he did at Georgia Tech as a freshman when he tied Calvin Johnson's record. A lot of go routes and things like that. And so even though they didn't connect, I thought those calls and that idea is good because he's going to get open. He's fast. And so when you have those kind of tools you're trying to work with, a guy like Vann, sometimes can get lost in the shuffle. I thought heading into the Arkansas game, Bill, the two guys that I wanted to see more involved in the offense
were Stogner and Van. And Stogner did. Stogner had 5 catches, 68 yards, looked good doing it. I think that Van is the next piece of the puzzle, so to speak. Van and then getting Bell more involved in the passing game, I think would help the offense as a whole. Jaheim is a weapon and a guy that I think we've seen through 2 years here that, in the passing game, he can be dangerous, and I like him running the ball, a little bit, but I think him being involved in the passing game is important moving forward, as well as Josh Van. And I think with Van too, sometimes, the first 2 games obviously have not gone well. The Clemson game last year did not go well for him. The North Carolina game, he did not have a catch. So we're going on 4 games now where he hadn't done much. And sometimes all it takes is like 1 or 2 plays for a guy to kind of get back in that zone. And I think that's what needs to happen with Josh Van moving forward. Is he's got to start catching it, getting back kind of in the zone, getting used to making plays. And I think there's a good chance he will. I mean, he had such a good season last year. That ability is not gone anywhere. I think sometimes, it's just a matter of kind of getting back to who you are and making plays. And I think Van can definitely do that. We've only had 2 games. There's 10 left. So he's got plenty of time.
When we come back, I want to get your take on Christian Bill Smith, the injury, where you think he's at and how you think he can impact the run game as they move forward. See if South Carolina can maybe focus a little bit more on the run, because no carry obviously didn't play the Georgia State game. No carries last week. I don't know if he's healthy right now or where he's at. I want to get your opinion on that. And we'll wrap up hour number 2 with JC Shurburtt. You're listening to JC, Bill Gunner, and Jen Jensen. It's the early game on 107.5 The Game.
The year was 2007. And on November 12th, 107.5 The Game went on the air. And since then, we have celebrated with you an SEC East title on the gridiron.
The exclamation point in the swamp. Carolina is going to Atlanta.
Our 15th anniversary celebration on 107.5 The Game is sponsored by Lexington Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, getting you better sooner.
Push! Touchdown, Carolina! Oh, I want this animal! Yes! Yes! Are you kidding me?
Happy anniversary to us on your home of the Gamecocks, 107.5 The Game, and the new 107.5 The Game app.
107.5 The Game traffic from the Shepherd's Glass traffic.
Up in the Westwood area, Folk Road before Wilson Boulevard, we do have a report of an accident. Also, we have I-26 eastbound at Bush River Road. Western Lane and Broad River Road, that actually has 2 lanes blocked. Again, that's Western Lane and Broad River Road. And disabled vehicle I-77 northbound before mile marker 4 right there at the Alex Sanders Road. Still caution there. 86 for the highs today, not quite as humid, but kind of pleasant. 85 for the next few days. Right now, 72 to 175. The Game.
Sponsored by Churches. At Churches, we put it all on the table for less.
Oh boy, get some good stretching in here. I think I need to, at my age, how much, Jen? How much stretching is involved in bar 3? Like, I don't want to say yoga. I don't think calling it yoga and stretching is.
No, I mean, there's the stretching before and after, and but it's more strength. But there are moves that you do that help with your flexibility.
That's definitely, I think, a big part of being healthy as you get older is flexibility, being able to. I still am amazed that your little leg can go up as high as you.
Well, yeah, you work on it, and it also helps with functional movements.
With what?
Functional movements, like, okay, so if you need to squat down and pick something up, we'll keep working on the flexibility so that you can,
Well, like for me, it's just like you said with golf or with anything else, just staying flexible and.
Yep. I do, but that I think I remember. Well, I know I remember seeing my parents when I was young, and granted, my parents were older because I came along late in life for them, and I think that was something that I kind of saw they weren't flexible, so that always kind of stuck with me that I didn't want to lose that, which I'm sure I'm not as flexible as I was obviously when I was 20, but now that I'm 25.
Our office has been dedicated.
But I
Yeah,
work it.
25 years. You've lost after the last 5 years. I can see that.
Yeah. But I try. Yeah, it's helpful.
771-9800 or go to
I don't, because I don't really want to have to pick you up off the floor if you go to tie your shoe and then you tumble. You know.
I've got to be careful.
Do something semi-inappropriate, but I'll because
See him at Amherst Street, near the fairgrounds in Williams Brice, or Highway 6 at Whiteford Way in Lexington. Design services expertly priced for customers, contractors alike. Visit them online at Gateway Supply. Zero Res Carpet and Air Duct Cleaning, the most trusted and reviewed cleaning company in town. Take advantage of the fall sale going on now. Get 3 rooms of carpet clean for only $119 when you meet your need. Bill Gunner, 1075 The Game. Easily schedule your cleaning online at ZeroResColumbia.com. Gamecock fans, it's game time. Are you ready? Get your ride ready with magnets, flags, and decals. When tailgating, we have plate, cups, koozies, napkins, and tablecloths. Choose from a store loaded with Gamecock apparel and get your earrings, necklace, bows, and tattoos, and complete your wardrobe with our free Beat Sticker Week. Gamecock Traditions at GamecockTraditions.com, your one-stop Gamecock shop. Gamecock Traditions, 5134 Sunset Boulevard, or visit our new location at Sand Hills Mall, across from the fountain.
One search engine is used by 9 out of 10 consumers. Hint, the name begins with a G. And there are hundreds of things that go into being ranked highly by that G. Your website, your business profile, even your social accounts. A couple of slip-ups and you find yourself on page 7. But at Cumulus Boost, we have the experts and resources to fix what's wrong and boost your findability, so you can rank higher than your competition. Get started today at cumulusboost.com. CUMULUS boost.com.
This update is sponsored by AAA Heating and Air, home of the $1,500 buyback. AAA Heating and Air must clear out its warehouse before new government efficiency regulations go into effect in 2023. No deals will be turned down. Call today to get a new unit tomorrow. 803-677-1500.
AAA Air when you need us. AAA Heating and Air.
Broadcasting live from the Herndon Chevrolet Studios. This is 1075 The Game. Stop by, shop online today, and see why Herndon Chevrolet makes you smile. The early game. On your home with the Game Guys. 1075 The Game.
wrapping up hour number 2, JC Shurburtt being part of the program as he does each and every Tuesday. And let me just ask you real quick here. A lot of talk about the run game. Marshawn Lloyd, 18 carries so far this year. Juju McDowell, 13. Jaheim Bell, 11. Christian Bill Smith, what can you share with us? This is more of where I interview you for a second instead of us discussing. But what can you share with his health and the impact he could have in the run game if I guess they could get him healthy?
Well, he's in there for a play. Screen pass didn't really work. I don't remember if he played more or not, Bill. I think, being a veteran player and an older guy, he's certainly useful. It's hard for me to blame the backs for the lack of a run game, or to say that there needs to be, a change there. Marshawn's running and looking about as good as he has. I mean, and most of, obviously his big plays have come in the passing game, a touchdown reception and then 7 catches for 72 on Saturday, including the 43-yarder that set up Carolina's first score. So, he's playing well. I thought Juju, when he got some opportunities, ran better than he did against Georgia State. And then there's Jaheim. So, you got to kind of find a way to work him in. As far as his health goes, I mean, he's been back, so maybe he's not feeling 100%, but certainly have not heard that, and I know he's practicing. So, maybe he's a guy that can come in and give them a spark. But you got to block, and you got to open holes, and things like that. And these backs have to be given the opportunity to go make the play. So that's the key there. Now, can Bill Smith do it? Yes. Does he bring something else to the table? Maybe he's a little bit different style back. Yeah. He hits the hole pretty hard. And as a guy that can get you, 3 or 4 yards on average, if he has room. So, maybe he's a guy this weekend that we see play an extended amount of time. But it's, Saturday was a passing game. They went empty a lot. They went, 4 or 5 wide a lot. I don't know that running the ball was even a priority on Saturday for the Gamecocks. So we'll see kind of moving forward, how his carries end up being and what he can accomplish. But I do know he's a really good player, and I know that he's a guy that they were excited about and continue to be.
I think with the run game this weekend, it's not ideal that you try and go in and say we're going to establish the run against Georgia, but they do have to do that. They've got to go out in some way, shape, or form on Saturday. Do we expect some changes there? Are we hoping for some changes?
I don't know. I think, I thought that early on against Arkansas, if you think about it, Rattler kept it for 8, and then you had Bell go for 6 on the first drive. They got all the way to the Arkansas 43. And then, they kind of stalled from there. I think that against a team like Georgia, it's very difficult to run the football, yes, but you have to do it. You have to at least try to get something, scratch it out. You know what I'm saying? Because if you get one-dimensional against those guys, I mean, it's over. I mean, there's just no – they're too good on defense. They've got too good of coaches on that side of the ball. The teams that have scored on them, which is basically Alabama, they've had a really good vertical passing attack and been able to kind of throw over the pressure. So I do think the passing game is going to be important. But you do have to try to scratch something out so you don't remain undefeated or you don't get one-dimensional against these guys on Saturday.
JC, we look forward to catching up with you later in the week. Shane Beamer will talk today. We'll have more to talk about on Thursday. Buddy, appreciate you taking an hour to join us this morning. We'll catch up with you on Thursday. He's JC Shurburtt. She's Jen Jensen. I'm Bill Gunner. Hour number 3 of the early game up next.
Celebrating our 15th anniversary, it's Columbia's Sports Talk Station, sponsored by Lexington Orthopedics and Sports Medicine.
WNKT FM, Eastover, Columbia.
107.5 The Game.
A Cumulus media station.
Hi, everybody. This is Woody Wyndham here to talk about Pioneer Tree Service, Guy Gant's company. Guy Gant's not with us anymore, but his girl.
All right, I got to go get water. Where's my water bottle? Over there. Trying to stay healthy. Drink water.
Storm damage service, property cleaning and grading, demolition and rock removal, right up to the
Excellent.
803-794-8253. Let me give you that again. 803-794-8253. Call right now, get a free estimate. Most challenging job, Pioneer Tree Service. You're going to want to call somebody you can trust, and that is the Gant girls at Pioneer Tree Service.
803-794-8253. Or find us online at pioneertreesc.com.
Oh, Pioneer Tree Service. Free quote.
You brush your teeth, but what about your nose? How do you clean your nose? With Navan. Navan will save you from your nose around the back.
No, it's not really, but.
People try to buy lots of things. Uncut allergies. Make it hard to breathe through your nose. But over time, they also find that cleaning your nose makes them feel better. A lot better. Nearly 3 million Navan users have written more than 100,000 reviews, averaging 4.7 stars, saying things like best product I've ever used and amazing. I love my Navan. That's because Navan helps you breathe better, sleep deeper, and snore less. But
Well, that was fun.
Here's the key point. Device good personal hygiene, and it's going to help you stay healthy.
I just tried it was from Instagram a couple months ago where you put your hands on the floor and one foot up against the wall, and then you kind of like donkey kick with the other leg. Hadn't been able to do it because I'd had that bicep tendon surgery, but just tried it here and it wasn't pretty. But it happened. I don't think Bill's gonna try it though. That could be fun.
You also need new friends. Make sure Progressive's one of them and get coverage today for as little as $100 a year.
Oh, and no, you did not receive that.
For residential insurance company, will bring increases by building policy not available. Spring heating and cooling systems are tested, retested, engineered, and re-engineered to keep up with you. We run together. Visit traininfo.com to find your work. Traininfo.com. Sponsored by traininfo.com.
Couple of those a day. I refill it though. I'm too cheap.
What?
No, Hope is saying drink tons of water, and I said, yeah, I try to drink a couple days a day, but I refill them. I don't.
Doing building housekeeping right now. Pretty fantastic. I'm like, little to the left, little to the left. To the right.
Okay.
Up a little bit more.
Right, Hope?
Yeah.
Get in your steps by having to go to the bathroom more often.
On your home of the Gamecocks. Not gonna believe this. 107.5.
They killed 16 Czechoslovakians. Guy was in a Syrian deco.
The Game.
First of all, Arkansas that day. Fought and battled throughout the game. Obviously, we can't turn the ball over, especially in the fourth quarter. We had the interception, fumble, and the safety, whatever. At least two, turnovers in the fourth quarter. You can't win football league in the SEC, that's for sure. But just for the team in there, I think we got a chance to be a really, really good football team. We can continue to get better. Today wasn't good enough on the road, but proud of the way that our guys fought. We talked all week. We're going to face adversity here at some point, and that's when we get stronger as a football team. I thought we showed that in a lot of ways today. Because we certainly faced a ton of adversity out there with things that happen throughout the game, injuries, particularly defensively. But we had a lot of guys that play a lot of plays. Overall, not good enough today. But excited as we continue to go through this season, and again, proud of the group of men we have in that locker.
That was Shane Beamer on Saturday afternoon talking about the game against Arkansas. We'll kind of wrap up final thoughts on that this hour and look ahead starting tomorrow to Georgia. As Shane Beamer, you can hear it right here at 1:30. Shane will meet with the media today over at the athletics facility and start kind of looking ahead toward what the Gamecocks have to do. The competition does not get any easier this week. Number one, Georgia, jumping over Alabama yesterday in the AP top 25. So the number one ranked Bulldogs will come into town this coming weekend, and South Carolina is going to face more adversity, as you just heard Shane talking about when they were out in Fayetteville. Well, guess what? This weekend, there's going to be more. You're going to have to be ready to play. You're going to have to be physical. They're going to do it without Jordan Strawn, who suffered a torn ACL and is out for the season. They're going to do it without Mokaba, who suffered a torn ACL. So it's time for other players to step up. The next man mentality in South Carolina right now, about a 26 and a half point underdog, depending on which website or which place you look there, as they get ready for Georgia. So a tall task this weekend. To put that line into context, when South Carolina went to Athens and beat Georgia back in 2019, they were a 24 to 25 point underdog on that particular day. So this line actually a little bit bigger, and the Gamecocks being at home for the weekend, a little concerning there. But you know what? That's what's on the schedule. That's who you got to play. You can't run and hide from Georgia, and simply you've got to go out and compete and find out where exactly you are with the program. Is actually look at the line here at 8:04 on a Tuesday. It's now dropped down to 24.5, and that is across the board. There it seems to be a consensus 24.5 is the number. So a little bit, about a point and a half drop. But again, last Saturday, very difficult. We've talked about it. Offensive line was, I guess, slightly improved. I guess you could say that. Defensive line got pushed around a little bit, gives up 295 yards rushing, and you're going to now face a team that is every bit as physical and every bit as talented as Arkansas. You're just going to get to do it at least in the friendly confines of Williams-Brice Stadium on Saturday. So if you want to weigh in on that, 803-404-6100, how you can do so. Some NFL news. If you didn't stay up late last night, and I don't blame you because we were talking about this a little bit as it pertains to
the Seattle Seahawks and the Denver Broncos, I went to bed about halftime. My interest wasn't there. The Seahawks don't really bring me to the NFL. The Broncos, Russell Wilson, none of that was particularly engaging for me. So I figured a decent night of sleep would be kind of fun. But late last night, Nathaniel Hackett, making his debut as a head football coach, elected to go with a 64-yard field goal for the win. 20 seconds to play. The Seahawks were facing 4th and 5 at their 46-yard line. They just spent a whole bunch of money on Russell Wilson, and Nathaniel Hackett decides, you know what? I think the play here is a 64-yard field goal to try for the win. Hackett, after the game, says we were right on the line. Brandon gave it its best shot. Brandon McManus was the kicker. He said, Brandon gave it its best shot. Obviously, I wish we would have gotten a lot closer. It put us in the weird spot because we were in field goal range. We just made the decision and took our shot there. Russell Wilson kind of agreeing. He said, we got the best field goal kicker maybe in the game. We got there and unfortunately it didn't go in. I believe in Coach Hackett. I believe in what we're doing. I believe in everything. It wrapped up the weekend for football, a weekend that started last Thursday with the Bills and the Rams, went into Friday night high school football. You got a really entertaining weekend of college football that took place. Obviously, the upsets. I'm going to read you something that I mentioned in that hour with J.C. Shurburtt on Texas A&M football versus Appalachian State. The numbers from that game are staggering. If you've only looked and seen the 17-14 score and you haven't dug into the actual statistics of that game, it is absolutely staggering what happened in College Station and almost the level of dominance with which App State was able to contain Texas A&M. And it's why this week with Miami going into College Station, Jimbo Fisher is, I don't know if he's necessarily on the hot seat. I don't know if the hot seat is the right term just yet for him, but there are a lot of unhappy Aggie fans out there today. And I got a feeling that Aggie Yale deal that they do, the midnight practice out at College Station. I was trying to think of the stadium, Kyle Field, is going to be maybe a little more subdued this coming Friday night. Maybe unlike Appalachian State, don't make fun of Miami. Miami might embarrass you if you're not careful. And the A&M Yale leaders out there kind of embarrassing themselves this past weekend. A video now going viral of some of the things that were said there at the little Yale practice. But I'll give you some statistics on A&M versus App State here in just a few minutes. Sunday, obviously, you had the NFL, and of course, I guess the big news of the weekend, the biggest news, a lot of injuries. Dak Prescott, though, out 6 to 8 weeks with surgery on his right thumb. Sources believe he'll miss 6 to 8 weeks as he goes through rehab. Prescott now, that would put him back really at the very end of October. More than likely, it's going to be in November. They've got a game against the Packers on November 13th, and a couple of people yesterday speculating that will actually be the return date for Dak Prescott. So all you Cowboy fans out there, great start to the season. Just excellent. You lose to Tampa Bay and you lose Dak Prescott. Not really the way you want to start the season. So I guess I guess, Cowboy fans, much like Gamecock fans, you can just say, well, maybe next year. We'll see what happens there with the Cowboys. But that was the tough news of the weekend there as they fell 19-3 to the Buccaneers on Sunday night. And then again last night, the Seahawks, who we'll talk with Patrick Pratt about this on Friday. The Seahawks are kind of projected to be one of the worst teams in the league and kind of in contention for that number one pick if they wanted to tank. They knock off Denver last night. Russell Wilson returns home to Seattle in his first game with the Broncos, and it's a 17-16 Seattle victory. Geno Smith, kind of the hero of the night for the Seahawks last night. And then he had some quotes afterwards saying that everybody wrote him off, but he didn't write back. So Geno Smith certainly feeling himself after last night, and deservedly so, but we'll see where the Seahawks go. Again, Geno Smith last night, 23 of 28 for $195 and 2 touchdowns for him. Russell Wilson last night, 29 of 42. He threw for 340 yards and had 1 touchdown, but it was not enough. So if you want to weigh in on anything NFL related, if you want to weigh in on anything college related, 803-404-6100 is how you can be a part of the program this morning. As always, you can go to our live stream. You can do it 2 ways, one of 2 ways. You can go to youtube.com, search 1075 The Game, click join, subscribe, be a part of the program. You can also go to Facebook. You can go to the 1075 The Game Facebook page where you can watch along there and weigh in as several people on there enjoying in conversation this morning. I mentioned this Texas A&M stuff. I don't know how many have really dug into the actual statistics. If you might have just looked at the score and been like, wow, that's a pretty big upset. Didn't realize that happened. 17-14. To start you off with the numbers of the situation before I get into the statistics, this is from Josh Pate of the Late Kick podcast on 24/7 Sports and CBSSports.com. There's a talent disparity, a financial disparity. Let me give you one. The talent disparity, according to 24/7 Sports, number of 4- and 5-star players on the Texas A&M roster versus Appalachian State. Number of 4- and 5-star players on the Texas A&M roster versus Appalachian State. Texas A&M has 56 4- and 5-star players. Appalachian State has 1. A little bit of a talent disparity there. 4 or 5-star players, 56 for A&M, 1 for App State. The average recruiting ranking the last 5 years. Average recruiting ranking. Now, obviously, the stat I just read is going to lend itself to what I'm about to tell you. Average recruiting ranking the last 5 years, Texas A&M 7.6, according to 247sports.com. 7.6 is where Texas A&M is averaged in the final recruiting rankings. Appalachian State, 90.6. So a 83 spot difference there in recruiting rankings. Financially, there's some differences here. Texas A&M, they spend roughly $37 million a year on their football program. $37 million a year. 1.5 million of that is to pay Appalachian State for coming out and beating them 17-14. Appalachian State, they spend $10 million a year on their football program. 37 million to 10 million. Combined coaching staffs, salaries, combined coaching staff salaries. Texas A&M, they're spending $16.5 million per season on their coaching staff. Appalachian State, $3 million per year. So that's just some of the recruiting rankings and the financial spending that both programs do. Now, Appalachian State, obviously the big win was Michigan. This is another top 10 victory for App State. We also know that they've beaten South Carolina, although that was a, 4-7 South Carolina team. They also took down North Carolina in the same season, but this one a little bit bigger out there, obviously beating a top 10 team. So you would think that A&M probably would have given them a little bit more of a ballgame. Remember, when South Carolina lost to Appalachian State, Ryan Helinski did throw for 325 yards. Couldn't put the ball in the end zone. They couldn't run the ball that night. I think it was 21. It was either 21 carries for 27 yards or 27 carries for 21 yards. One of the two. I can't remember, and I don't have it right here in front of me. But that night, South Carolina couldn't run the ball. It was Appalachian State being able to dominate in that manner. On Saturday afternoon, out in College Station, Chase Bryce only threw for 134 yards. But listen to the disparity in statistics here. Appalachian State had 315 total yards. Texas A&M, 186. Texas A&M ran the ball 18 times for 89 yards. Texas A&M as a whole had just 38 plays in this ball game. Texas A&M ran just 38 plays. Haynes King was 13 of 20 for 97 yards, and A&M ran it 18 times for 89 yards. For those that don't know, by the way, A&M ran a kickoff back in this game. They only scored one offensive touchdown. A&M actually ran a kickoff back in this game for one of their scores. For those wondering, Appalachian State on Saturday, 52 carries for 181 yards. Appalachian State ran 82 plays to just 38 for Texas A&M. And again, Appalachian State holding Texas A&M to just 186 total yards. The time of possession, 41 minutes, 29 seconds for App State, 18 minutes, 17 seconds for Texas A&M. So a couple statistics there. If you're wondering why also there is about a 12-second missing gap there on time of possession, it's because of that kick return that A&M had for the touchdown. 803-404-6100, wild weekend of college football. We'll take kind of a quick glimpse ahead to this coming weekend. Shane Beamer will be meeting with the media later today. We'll get to him. I see some of you also weighing in on the phone lines. We'll get to you as well. A lot to do here in hour number 3. It's Bill Gunner. It's Jen Jensen. It's the early game on 107.5 The Game.
The year was 2007. And on November 12, 107.5 The Game went on the air. And since then, we have celebrated with you
A trip to the Final Four with the men.
The South Carolina Gamecocks, for the first time in program history, are headed to the Sweet 16.
Our 15th anniversary celebration on 107.5 The Game is sponsored by Lexington Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, getting you better sooner.
Game over. Gamecocks are in the Final Four.
happy anniversary to us on your home of the Gamecocks.
It's all these guys. They've been with us for a while. They believe in each other. They put up with me and go out and do it better the next day. They got the courage of a lion.
107.5 The Game.
And the new 107.5 The Game app.
If you have been suffering from joint pain, wherever it may be, ankles, knees, even your fingers, if you've had some joint pain lately, don't just assume that there's only one way of dealing with it these days, that the old ways are the only way you can get these joint pain issues fixed that can get you back to living the life you want. There's a new way. It's called QC Kinetics, regenerative medicine that uses highly concentrated healing properties from your own body to restore and repair damaged joint tissue. And QC Kinetics is the nation's leader in this exciting breakthrough. It's a natural approach to eliminating joint pain. You need to call QC Kinetics today and find out what they can do for you. You can get a free consultation with a phone call today. Write this number down, 803-281-6860. Again, that's 803-281-6860. If you've been living with joint pain, you've got problems with your back, with your hips, with your knees, with your ankles, and yes, even your wrist and your fingertips, call QC Kinetics today and find out how they can do and help you get back to living the life you want to live. And they can do it without drugs, with no downtime, and with no surgery. That's the new way of doing things. And QC Kinetics is at the absolute forefront of making this happen. It's the natural approach to eliminating joint pain, and you need to call QC Kinetics today, 803-281-6860. Find out how QC Kinetics can, again, help you with no drugs, no downtime, and no surgery. Get that free consultation, 803-281-6860. That's QC Kinetics.
107.5 The Game traffic from the Shepherd's Glass Traffic Center.
Shepherd's Glass, a true reflection of quality. ShepherdsGlass.com.
On the Lexington area, Cannon Trail Road and Nazareth Road, we have a report of an accident there. Still working at Deer Crash Folk Road before Wilson Boulevard. I-20 eastbound at 277, a report of a tie-up there, as well as I-26 eastbound at Broad River Road. I-26 eastbound at Bush River Road, an accident there. Also, Lexington Hills Parkway at South Lake Drive, Reimer Pond Road at Wilson Boulevard, and Western Lane at Broad River Road. Very busy out there this morning. Hard to believe because we're really under a nice amount of sunshine, and that's the way it's looking like it's going to stay for the next few days. Going to be 86 today with less humidity, 85 for the next few days, 71 right now, and 107.5 the game.
This is Boomer Esiason with the CBS Sports Minute, sponsored by Prevagen. When Major League Baseball announced rule changes for 2023 on Friday, Commissioner Rob Manfred claimed improving pace of play, increasing action, and reducing injuries are goals with overwhelming fan support. But the rules themselves, specifically the pitch clock and the defensive shift ban, were voted in against the players' will. I'm Boomer Esiason.
Steve is a real Prevagen user and paid testimonialist.
Hi, I'm Steve, and I live in Austin, Texas. I work as a personal assistant to the owner of a large manufacturing firm. I've got anywhere from 10 to 50 projects going at any given time. I absolutely have to be sharp. 5 years ago is when I started to notice I started making mistakes. My memory was not nearly as sharp as it had been. I was confiding in my friend about the problems I was having with my memory, and she said, Stephen, you've got to try Prevagen. After a period of time of taking Prevagen, my memory was getting better, and I started to feel a much better sense of well-being. If you're experiencing what I was experiencing, try it. I really believe that it's going to have tremendous effects for you, just like it did for me.
Prevagen, healthier brain, better life. Prevagen is available in stores everywhere. Based on a clinical study of subgroups of individuals who were cognitively normal or mildly impaired, this product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Sponsored by Dell Technologies. Dell Technologies semi-annual sale has arrived, and it's time to save big on PCs with Windows 11 Pro. Let's get great deals on top accessories.
All right. What do we got? What else? Am I missing anything? I try to.
Hi, my name is John, and I'm self-employed, and we got sidetracked on our tax season for the 2008 recession, and it became a mantra that we couldn't tackle ourselves. We heard about the law firm on the radio and contacted John. If he classifies someone as a miracle worker, I would put him at the top of the list because he took our problem and resolved it for us with our not only our unpaid taxes, but our unfiled tax returns from previous years. And I would highly recommend the Equity Law Firm. It's great to know we have changed people's lives for the better. Hi, this is local attorney John Ecton with the Ecton Law Firm. For over a decade, our office has been dedicated to helping hardworking individuals and businesses solve tax problems for good. If you have years of unfiled tax returns, facing IRS wage levies, bank levies, or tax liens, call our office today at 771-9800 or go to EctonLawFirm.com. That's ECTON lawfirm.com. Let's get your tax problem solved for good. Call today. We're glad you did.
At the Women Here, Major League Sports can change lives. So they designed an after-school golf program that teaches the fundamentals.
There's more video. These Texas A&M. Have y'all ever watched? There's these Texas A&M videos that the Friday night yell things. Good grief. There's another one that came out 12 hours ago on unnecessary roughness on the Twitter account.
Is that the one where they're talking crap about App State?
Yeah, but I mean, this one's just them dancing around, and it looks like just a yeehaw breakdown. I mean, it's.
Gotcha.
$8:22 on a Tuesday morning. Reminder coming up today at 1:30. You can hear Shane Beamer right here on 107.5 The Game as he meets with the media over at the athletic facility to do a weekly Tuesday press conference. It'll be very interesting to hear him talk. Obviously, a lot that he needs to cover here, from injury situations to offensive and defensive line improvement to just preparing for the Georgia Bulldogs. The Gamecocks 24.5-point underdog right now, as the number one ranked Georgia Bulldogs are rolling into town. And good news, 107.5 The Game and Gamecock Central are giving you the chance to go to the Georgia game this weekend. Log on to 107.5 The Game, click on the Gamecock Central Takeover banner, and register to win a pair of tickets to see the Gamecocks take on the Bulldogs this weekend. There is a deadline. It is Thursday at 5:59 p.m. So, again, you can go to 107.5 The Game, look for the Gamecock Central Takeover banner, and register to win a pair of tickets to see the Gamecocks take on the Bulldogs this coming weekend. Again, that deadline, 5:59 on Thursday. That's 107.5 The Game and Gamecock Central giving you a chance to win tickets to this weekend's Georgia game. So you can go and check that out and maybe go and hang out. Noon game should be kind of interesting. We've talked a lot about the injuries yesterday. South Carolina releasing the information that Mo Kaba and Jordan Strawn will be out this weekend, and that's certainly something that you keep an eye out for. Gilbert Edmond has, I thought, and J.C. Shurburtt kind of alluded to it in the previous hour, I think Edmond has played fairly well. This is a guy that kind of physically, I go, there's a couple things I'm about to go with this, so kind of follow me here. I always like the long, kind of lanky, twitchy kind of defensive ends. And Gilbert Edmonds, 6'5", 250 pounds, kind of like a Jordan Strawn who was in that kind of same mold. See, I don't know. I think we have the wrong expectations for Jordan Birch. I think Birch has been fine. 6'6", 275, though, really at his size, he's not the long, lanky kind of defensive end that I think constantly. One thing I always heard about Birch coming out of Hammond was not edge rushing speed, but was power, more of a power guy, almost more of a strong side defensive end. Now, he's got to continue to get better and set the edge and do things of that nature. I think people are being a little bit too hard on Jordan Birch through 2 games. He's made some plays. He looks like an improved player, but I don't think Jordan Birch is ever going to be the defensive end that you're looking for to register 6, 7, 8 sacks in a season. He strikes me as more of a guy who needs to continue to improve against the run and be able to do that. There was a particular play where Arkansas scored on Saturday where he kind of stepped inside and tried to seal the edge or take away the edge, and I think they flipped it out to Sanders, and Sanders outran both Birch and Debo Williams to the corner for a touchdown. There was nobody else out there. But through 2 games, I think you're seeing an improved Jordan Birch. He's making plays. He did have 10 tackles on Saturday, and I know tackles are not the end-all, be-all, statistically speaking, when you just look at defensive players. But I do think he's playing a little bit better, and I think he is kind of molding himself into the player that South Carolina fans hoped he would be, but he's not going to be that Jadeveon Clowney or, even a Devin Taylor, the longer, lankier kind of defensive end that has a lot of speed coming off the end. Gilbert Edmond, though, is more of that guy. Originally a stand-up outside linebacker, a guy that South Carolina brought in out of Fort Pierce, Florida, that has had time to develop a little bit, and he'll get his opportunity this weekend, obviously, against a very good Georgia offensive line to go out and showcase what he can do. And if he can take the next steps in his career, behind him is Terrell Dawkins, and Dawkins 6'4", 250, obviously, to transfer from North Carolina State. And Dawkins was a guy that we thought would come in and maybe not start over Strawn and maybe not start over Birch, but would provide pass rushing help. And through 2 games, you haven't seen much of Terrell Dawkins. He's going to get his opportunity this weekend, I think. And as J.C. Shurburtt said in the previous hour, that I agree with this Georgia football team is not a one-dimensional football team who's just going to come in here and line up with Kendall Milton and that bevy of running backs and try and just run it right down your throat. Stetson Bennett can throw it around. Obviously, when you've played college football for 13 years, you have some experience. And Stetson Bennett, who I think started sometime around 2010, has developed experience there at Georgia and knows how to read a defense. And he's got weapons, obviously, at wide receiver, but definitely at the tight end position. So this is going to be a big matchup for South Carolina. I think it'll give us more of an idea in how good this defensive line is at getting to a quarterback. With Georgia State, it was a lot of short passes. Darren Granger was not a guy who's going to sit back there and just chunk it around a lot. 7 of 29 is kind of proof of that. And then this past weekend, KJ Jefferson, again, a little bit different kind of quarterback and different offensive scheme. But Georgia will take their shots against South Carolina this weekend, and they'll sit back there and try and throw the ball a little bit. And with guys like Edmond, with guys like Terrell Dawkins, you got to hope that those guys are able to get out, rush the passer, and create some situations, some pressure plays. I think that's a reason you have not seen the interceptions from South Carolina quite like we saw last year. I know it's only been 2 games, and KJ Jefferson was wildly accurate, 18 of 21 last weekend. But this weekend's a little bit different formula for how the other team's offense is going to try and attack South Carolina. It's going to be extremely difficult, and it's very likely that Georgia will have success on the ground game, but you've got to try and limit that type of success. 803-404-6100. Let's get out to the Love Chevy phone lines. Josh has waited patiently. Josh, how you doing this morning? What's on your mind?
Good. How are you? I called in to mention something about the game this week, but when you talked about Appalachian State, I just wanted to say that I have admired that program for a long time. When you talk about a blue collar, we're going to go out and we're going to work you type of program, just physically tough, mentally tough. That program is on it. That's the kind of blue collar mentality that I would love to see here at South Carolina. I mean, these guys on paper, they had no business going to Kyle Station and beat Texas A&M. Marshall had no business going to South Bend and beating Notre Dame last weekend. So for all those that say, well, we just got to get some talent in here, I don't buy that. We've got talent up front on the D-line. They're just, the only guy I saw play with any balls for 4 quarters last weekend was Nicky McWorry. I mean, the guy's steady. I mean, he made a couple mistakes in the pass defense, but overall, I mean, that guy's a man child, and he's a 3-star true freshman. We got 5-star, 4-star guys up front that got pushed back 3 yards. I mean, it comes down to heart and a want to, and that's what I want to see from this team against Georgia this weekend. I want to see up front. I want to see guys playing with more heart, more effort. That family over everything and brotherhood stuff, it's cute, it's warm and fuzzy, but go out there and really hang it out there and put it on the line for your brother this weekend. I mean, I want to see us get through this game with no injuries. I would love to see a win, obviously. I'd like to keep hope alive, but I don't think there's a pair of garnet trifocals out there that are thick enough for me to see a win this weekend. And I don't mean to be negative, but there's nothing I've seen so far that would lead me to believe that. I just want to see some improvement. And then in the following 2 games, I want to see them get some of these younger defensive players out there, get them some reps. We're going to need them going down the stretch and try to get the timing down, continue to work on the timing, continue to work on the flow with the offense. And then, after that, I mean, just improve from week to week, because after Georgia, I don't see anybody on the SEC schedule that really just scares me or that I think that we can't beat. I mean, Tennessee would probably be the one to scare me the most, just the way that they are, the way they're set up offensively. But Hendon Hooker is not as big as KJ Jefferson is, obviously. And the Arkansas offense is a very, very tough one to stop. I think they're going to really go places this year as well, too. But I just want to see us play tougher. I just feel like the heart and the effort's not there on some of these plays. So that's all I wanted to say. Go Gamecocks. Appreciate you taking my call.
Yeah, I appreciate the phone call, Josh. I did disagree with the heart thing. I think South Carolina's playing with heart, and I think they're playing with passion. It's the question that I'm developing now. Is it a strength and conditioning thing? Is it a technique thing? There's something there. I don't question the player's heart. I think that's there. Something though right now, and maybe it's just as simple. I said this after the Georgia State game. Maybe it's just as simple as you got to get better players. And I know it's easy to say, well, hey, Zach Pickens and Jordan Burks were 5-star guys, and Boogie Huntley's a 4-star, and maybe that's it. Maybe they haven't been coached up, and I don't know. And I don't. In talking with all the guests we have a lot of good ones. Jamie Bradford, J.C. Shurburtt, everybody that comes on. It is one of those things where you kind of look around and you say, okay, what is the problem here? Appalachian State played with a lot of heart this weekend. I think they played with the same amount of heart and effort that they played with the previous week in Boone for what was labeled as the biggest home game ever for Appalachian State. But against North Carolina, they gave up 352 yards passing to Drake May. Against North Carolina, they gave up 63 total points. Against North Carolina 2 weeks ago, they gave up 567 yards. They allowed North Carolina to be 9 of 14 on third down. Appalachian State certainly lost that game. Then they go out to Texas A&M. Well, is it because they won out there that they played with heart and effort and everything, but couldn't do it against North Carolina when they gave up 567 yards? I think South Carolina is playing with heart and effort. Something, whether it's talent, whether it's coaching, whether it's strength and conditioning, something hasn't clicked for them to be able to line up and match the physical nature of Arkansas. And obviously the week before, being able to line up and move Georgia State around on the offensive line. But you're right. There's opportunities ahead for this team to continue to improve and get better. We'll continue talking about that as we roll along. You're listening to Bill Gunner. You're listening to Jen Jensen. It's the early game on 107.5 The Game.
The year was 2007, and on November 12th, 107.5 The Game went on the air. And since then, we have celebrated with you 2 College World Series titles.
Line drive, right field, base hit. South Carolina wins the College World Series.
Our 15th anniversary celebration on 107.5 The Game is sponsored by Lexington Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, getting you better sooner.
Jackie Bradley makes the catch. South Carolina has back-to-back national titles.
Happy anniversary to us on your home of the Gamecocks.
I don't really know how I feel. I've never been in this situation before, but I know one thing. I'm extremely proud for these players, these coaches, the University of South Carolina National Championship.
107.5 The Game and the new 107.5 The Game app.
Obviously, it's football season. If you listen to Sports Talk Radio, you're well aware of that. Did you also know it's truck season? That's right. You can get out to Love Chevrolet right now and check out truck season. There's no better place with 14 acres of brand new Chevrolets to go and check out the wide range of trucks than at Love Chevrolet. I-26 in Harbison between Lowe's and Frankie's Fun Park. Also right now, running some great deals on the Chevrolet Equinox. That's right. You can check out the first ever all-electric Equinox EV. So if you're in the market for a brand new truck or an Equinox or even just another car, truck, or SUV that you've had on your mind, now is the time to get out to Love Chevrolet, I-26 in Harbison between Lowe's and Frankie's Fun Park, and go check out the great family that serviced the Midlands for over 60 years, making sure that you leave that lot each and every time satisfied with the brand new purchase. Purchasing a car these days, it can be a little stressful. I've talked a lot about that the last few weeks because as we head toward the end of the year, I know finances can be a little tight, but sometimes you got to go and you got to make that big purchase. You got to bite the bullet. Well, you don't want purchasing a new vehicle to be stressful. You want it to be a fun experience, and at Love Chevrolet, that's exactly what they provide. That's why they've been in business for 60 years and why they'll continue to be in business, because of the great folks that make up the Love Chevrolet family. I-26 in Harbison between Lowe's and Frankie's Fun Park. You can visit them on the web and even speak with a seasoned professional and pick the car or truck you've been looking for right over the internet, lovechevy.com. Wherever you want to go, however you want to go about doing it, whether you want to visit them in person or visit them on the web, visit Love Chevrolet today and find new roads.
107.5 The Game traffic from the Shepherd's Glass Traffic Center.
Shepherd's Glass, a true reflection of quality. shepherdsglass.com.
Berry Hill Road at Bush River Road, report of an accident there. Also, Cannon Trail Road at Nazareth Road, still working that earlier accident. Have a new one on the books, George Rogers Boulevard at Bluff Road. Also an accident, I-20 eastbound at 277. I-26.
All right.
And two more to let you know about White Oak Pond Road at Wilson Boulevard and Western Lane at Broad River Road. Surprisingly, it is sunny out there. It's going to be a little bit less humid today and week. 86 for the high today, 85 tomorrow, 71 right now.
Football season is upon us, and there's nothing better than watching your favorite team with company in a clean home. With over 1,800 Google reviews and a 4.9 star rating, Zero Red Carpet Air Duct Cleaning is the most highly reviewed cleaning company in the Midlands. Their patented no residue cleaning to get your carpets, rugs, or food insanely clean. Take advantage of the fall sale going on now.
COVID-19 moves fast, and now you can too. If you feel symptoms, even if they're mild, you should test fast. Test positive and at high risk for severe COVID-19, and act fast with authorized oral treatments that can be taken at home and must be taken within 5 days from when symptoms begin. COVID-19 moves fast, and now you can too by asking your healthcare provider if an oral treatment is right for you. Learn about a treatment option at treatcb19.com. This message is sponsored by Pfizer.
Do you struggle with occasional nerve aches in your hands or feet? Try Nervive Nerve Relief from the world's #1 nerve care company. Nervive tablets contain alpha-lipoic acid to relieve nerve aches, weakness, and discomfort, plus B-complex vitamins to support healthy nerve function as you age. Live life with less nerve discomfort with Nervive Nerve Relief. Learn more at nervivehealth.com. And try Nervive Pain Relieving Cream to block nerve pain signals at the source. Use as directed.
This is a paid advertisement for Shurburtt with principal offices in Houston, Texas, is responsible for the content of this advertisement. Commander Pentagon is attorney licensed in North Carolina. Attention, all military members or military families or contractors that spend time at the Marine Base Camp Lejeune. If you or family member live
All right. Let's get the final 2 segments in here. What do we got? 1 minute, 30, minute 30.
Justice they deserve. Billions have been set aside for victims of toxic water claims. If you or a loved one was to Camp Lejeune at any time through 1987 and developed
We're not doing promos every day. Now I'm having a little sleeper.
That's not what. That's why I wore the pullover today.
I bugged it up since I get it. It was 66 in here. That's now I like it cool. I don't want it back. That's crazy.
I like it when I go to sleep, not when I like. As soon as I get up, I'm like, all right, close. Go to sleep. I'm actually at 70 now, trying to sleep. Coming up on Friday, this Friday, you can join Heath Klein for game time at Columbia Craft on Green Street, 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Columbia Craft can be your game day headquarters. And again, Heath Klein will be there getting you prepared, getting your weekend off to a good start this coming Friday, 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. over at Columbia Craft. Columbia Craft is proudly distributed throughout the Midlands by KW Beverage. But go by and see Heath Klein and visit with him this coming Friday, 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. on Green Street at Columbia Craft. It can be your game day headquarters, so you can go and visit them. So that is coming. Yeah, I move around a good bit during the breaks, just early in the morning. I'm trying to kind of get going. He does some dancing. Does a little jig. Yeah, what's the Irish jig guy? Michael Flatley. You'd be surprised. That's how Heath kind of stays in shape over there when he's trying to do, kind of stays alert, stays, ready to go for the next segment. Little Lord of the Flatley, Lord of the, whatever. You can tell where it goes. Yeah, Lord of. I believe Heath Klein will start joining us on Thursdays for a little cross promotion segment. I believe since he has game time and we have the early game, we're going to call it the early game. Yeah, it's very creative. Yeah, the marketing people here all over it. So no, but Heath Klein will probably start joining us on Thursday mornings for about 30 minutes just to. I miss kind of talking with Heath doing the pre. I couldn't do the pregame show, the football pregame show this year because of Austin soccer, and having to be there for that and be a father. So I kind of miss talking with him on Saturday morning. So I look forward to maybe having him on Thursday at 7:30 to kind of talk a little football, get his perspective, but also go back and forth with him a little bit. I'm not. I'm not. You got to get him giggling. You got to get him. That's the key. Is once you can get him giggling, he's off his game. He's off his game. Tonight, for those of you interested, men's soccer travels up to UNC Wilmington. Gamecocks thumped Winthrop over the weekend, beat them on Friday 4-2. Tony Annan expected to be in here. He says he'll be in here tomorrow, but we'll see. A night of travel to Wilmington and back. We'll see how he handles getting up bright and early to come and join us tomorrow morning. But South Carolina tonight at UNC Wilmington. Gamecocks have bounced back. Good week for them last week, knocking off USC Upstate 2-1 and defeating Winthrop 4-2. Again tonight on the road up at Wilmington. It's listed as Flow Sports. I have no clue what that is. I'm not even going to pretend to know. But I'm guessing it's something you can live stream it on. Game is at 7 p.m. I always choose to follow them on Gamecock Men's Soccer Twitter account to keep updated. This coming Saturday night, they will host Campbell over at Stone Stadium. So if you're looking for something to do with the family, you can get out to Stone Stadium, 7 o'clock Saturday night. The Campbell Camels will roll into town. And then next week, it's Queens, University of Charlotte, and the first conference game of the Sun Belt, Georgia Southern, Saturday, September the 24th. That game, unfortunately, will also be at the same time as Charlotte coming to South Carolina. If you didn't see yesterday, the Charlotte versus South Carolina football game announced for 7:30 kickoff on under the light. And that, look, South Carolina should win the game if they play at 6 a.m. The time on that game should not matter at all. What it does give Shane Beamer and his staff a chance to do is, again, to showcase that atmosphere to recruits, whether it's unofficials or whether you choose to have official visitors come in, to get another game, to be able to utilize those lights. That game will be on ESPNU, by the way. That's the part of getting a night game right now as you try to continue to build this program and you try to do it through recruiting, is getting a game at night. So yesterday announced the Charlotte game, September 24th, will be 7:30 p.m. It'll be on ESPNU. Really, for those games, great opportunity to get the kids out and go. It'll be family weekend at Williams-Brice Stadium. We'll come back. We'll wrap up the early game. It's Bill Gunner, it's Jen Jensen. It's 107.5 The Game. You're listening to us on Tuesday morning, 8:46.
You're an underdog, you're on the road, you're going to need it at some of those big plays. Oh, yeah. I was waiting on the play. It's not a play. I'll give the play. Yes. However, if South Carolina was down a couple I think Arkansas is better, but they have the established identity from last season that they could then carry over because aside from trading running back.
What are we calling insane, York? What are we going with as insane?
My goodness. We're beginning a sunny Tuesday morning. It's busy out there. Let's just kind of recap everything on the highway. Berry Hill Road and Bush River Road. Also, Cannon Trail Road and Nazareth Road in cleanup stages. Working an accident, George Riders Boulevard at Bluff Road. I-20 eastbound at 277, an accident there. I-26 eastbound at Broad River Road at 697. Beach Festival Road after Spring Mill Road, a report of tie-up. 2 more accidents to let you know about.
Let's see what's on the old email this morning here.
Less humidity today and for the next few days, 86 for the high today, 85 tomorrow, 72 at 105 The Game.
Sponsored by South Carolina Education.
Education Lottery. The second one.
Oh, battery. Oh, y'all are talking about. There we go. I'm sorry. Y'all are. That's the good part of the live stream. Little conversation there breaking out about cars. Totally understand. Glad we can have multiple conversations each and every morning. Oh boy.
Schedule your free no obligation appointment today. Visit fixmyfoundation.com. That's fixmyfoundation.com.
Managing your online presence takes time, effort, and expertise. It can overwhelm even the savviest business owner. So, meet Cumulus Boost. We're experts at
Put a couple of these down on paper real quick.
We make sure potential customers can easily find you and really like what they find. Your website, online listings, consumer reviews, and more. Cumulus Boost. Online at cumulusboost.com. CUMULUS Boost.com.
My Pillow is having the biggest bed sheet sale ever. The My Pillow for Kids sheets are available in a variety of colors, and all sizes are on sale. For example, a medium size, regular price $89.98, now only $39.98 with your promo code. Order now, as there's a very limited supply. The My Pillow for Kids sheets are free and have a cool, crisp feel with deep fibers to fit over any mattress. These come with a 10-year warranty and have a 60-day money back.
Oh, Mississippi State.
MyPillow.com. Then click on the radio listen square and use promo code Westwood to receive the My Pillow for Kiddo sheets for as low as $29.98. Order now, because when they're gone, they're gone. Or call 800-653-7485 and use promo code Westwood. South Carolina, Scott here from Tradition. The good news is you're in the market for an engagement ring or for diamond jewelry, because we have the largest selection anywhere in the Southeast. And whether you're in the market,
Oh yeah, Michigan State's the big ABC game.
because whether you buy mine or last, we'll be happy to know. We guarantee the trade-in value of both kinds of diamonds in our store. So if the day comes to want an even bigger diamond, we'll be happy to give you full value you pay for the original when you trade it in. Even better, we have over 1,000 diamond rings in stock, so you get to try on pretty much every style imaginable. And if you still don't see exactly the right design, we'll be glad to custom make it for you. And yes, we have interest-free financing for qualified buyers. Come see us and get the ring of your dreams for the diamond of your choice. Only at Tradition Fine Jewelry, South Carolina's diamond support and customization destination. On Sunset in Lexington and at the Fountain in Sandhill. At the Samuel Reynolds Law Firm, we've seen how terrible accidents turn lives upside down. And we're proud to be the lawyers our clients depend on during their toughest moments. I'm Jason Reynolds. Call me when your family is faced with any serious injury or death. And I'm Stephen Silver.
All right.
Medical treatment and workers' compensation we've done.
Oh yeah.
Samuel Brothers. 779-4000. Broadcasting live from the Herndon Chevrolet Studios. This is 1075 The Game. Stop by, shop online today, and see why Herndon Chevrolet makes you smile. Yearly Game. On your home of the Gamecocks. Yearly Game. 1075 The Game.
Final segment of the program, Bill Gunner, Jen Jensen. Again, big thank you to JC Shurburtt for joining us as he does each and every Tuesday in the previous hour, 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. Anything you missed, you can go back and listen to what he had to say. Jen has already put it out on her Twitter account at Jen Jensen Morse, and you can make that part of your listening later on if you want to hop on the treadmill or if you're driving in a car Some interesting insight from him on the game this past weekend. You can go back and check that out. Looking ahead to next weekend as we start to kind of put everything behind us. Again, you'll hear Shane Beamer right here on 107.5 The Game roughly around 1:30. He will meet with the media for his Tuesday press conference. But looking ahead, a couple lines that kind of popped out that I find interesting. Obviously, Georgia, South Carolina, big SEC game. There is another interesting big, I don't know how you want to label it, SEC game that takes place this weekend. Mississippi State is at LSU, and the Bulldogs are -2.5. Mike Leach's team rolling into LSU, and they're going to be a 2.5-point favorite this coming weekend over the Tigers. That game will be in Baton Rouge. Should be pretty entertaining to watch that offense go against that defense and to see if Brian Kelly can get his team up and use the home field advantage there at Death Valley. That's a 6 o'clock game on ESPN. Another SEC team that will be pretty entertaining to watch this weekend. Brian Harsin and the Auburn Tigers are at home. That's 3:30 CBS against number 22 Penn State. So the return game after Penn State knocked them off in Happy Valley last year. Penn State listed right now as a 3-point favorite over the Tigers. Again, that's a 3:30 game at Jordan-Hare this coming Saturday. This line surprised me, and I'd be kind of interested. I'm doing this at the end of the show, so I don't have time necessarily to tell you to text in. But you heard me talking about Texas A&M earlier and what Appalachian State was able to do them. And Texas A&M's been in a little bit of flux. Even in their first game, their offense didn't look very good. Texas A&M. It's going to be a late game, 9 o'clock Eastern time, 8 o'clock in College Station. The Aggies are a 5.5-point favorite, 5.5, depending on where you look, over the Miami Hurricanes this weekend. A little surprised by that, more so because A&M's offense has really sputtered early on this year. But Miami will roll in. Tyler Van Dyke so far has been pretty good for the Hurricanes. That, again, will be a 9 o'clock ESPN game, so you can go do the tailgating and enjoy everything on Saturday at Williams-Brice Stadium. You can even go catch that soccer game that I was talking about and be back in time. Van Dyke for the Hurricanes this year, 34 of 46 for 448, 3 touchdowns and an interception. That'll be a good test for Texas A&M. We'll get into more of these point spreads tomorrow as we will be joined hopefully by Tony Annan. We'll look ahead to Thursday when Brian Edwards will join us from Vegas Insider. So a lot to do this coming week. Hope you've enjoyed the program. Big thank you again to J.C. Shurburtt for joining us. Big thank you to everybody who's participated. A lot of interaction both on the text line and on the phone lines as well. I apologize if I did not get quite to everybody. Thank you to Jen for doing everything she does back there. And you missed it. And we didn't even get it on the live stream. She did some kind of stretching, jumping thing out in the lobby a little while ago that I was impressed.
We'll see if you can do it tomorrow.
No, I can't do it. I can go ahead and tell you that even with 21 hours of practice, I can't do it. We'll join you, though, in 21 hours. Jen will do more stretching, and I'll do more sitting. So we do. It's the early game. 107.5 The Game.
Gamecocks, Braves, the NFL with live local radio. 107.5 The Game, WNK.
All right, everybody. Have a great day. Anthony, Chuck, appreciate y'all being a part of the program. Look forward to seeing everybody tomorrow morning. Tony Annan, I think, and maybe another guest or two.
That'd be fun.
Y'all take care.
See you.